All right, here we go. Sun is just having a few technical difficulties, so he's restarting his computer, and he will join us in just a moment. Well, welcome to episode 14 of Noob vs Pro. This is the series where Sun and I, my editor, and I take our new accounts out for a spin, share our progress with the viewers, and talk about anything and everything to do with Raid in the world. So, as far as our daily login is, we just hit 61 days and get the 500 energy here, so we both got a nice chunk of energy to spend during the stream. And there's a lot going on with the Titan event. We've already pulled our Void Shards, so that video is up. If you haven't seen that already, you want to go check out that video. And neither one of us hit on a legendary, and neither one of us hit on like a guaranteed next 6-star epic. But we've got some good options. We'll go over Sun's roster in just a bit when he gets back. But yeah, so let's take a look at the champions that I pulled. So we want to look at some voids here. So I pulled Battle Sage. That was my one epic. And then I pulled Cold Heart. So I feel very good about the Cold Heart pull. You can see I'm already leveling her up. Battle Sage is legit too, by the way. She's not bad. She's not a phenomenal champion. I think she used to be a bit stronger because she did some things that were a little bit more rare in the game. But she's been power crept. So we'll take a look at her kit real quickly. So if you've pulled a Battle Sage, she's, like I said, she's decent. It starts with the all battles speed aura of 19%. This is just a great aura. Having this option in as many champions as you can get is really good. I know we've all got High Katoon, right? In 30 days, we all get High Katoon. So you always have this aura somewhere on your roster, unless you fed your High Katoon, which I hope you haven't. But sometimes you don't want High Katoon for whatever reason, but you still want the speed aura. Or sometimes you can't use High Katoon. For instance, you can't use High Katoon, obviously, in High Elves faction crypts, so you can have this aura there. Or there are some secret rooms where you can't use High Katoon, but you could use Battle Sage. So I think there's a Void Epic secret room. But there might also be like a Epic Elves or Void Elves or so. I don't know. I forget all the all of the secret rooms off the top of my head. There's like 30 of them, so, or 40 of them. I don't know. There's a whole lot of different secret rooms. But anyway, so I like having that aura as an option. Her A1 is an AoE, which is great. Means, hey, stun set viable. Definitely stun set viable. The A2 is an increased attack on all allies and a full cleanse on all allies. This is a very nice skill. And so this is really what she was used for primarily back in the day. You can use her in Clan Boss as your stun cleanser, or even to make your team affinity friendly. Now, she doesn't bring a lot of damage. She does bring an increased attack, so she'll improve the damage of your damage dealers. So, that's one way to think about damage, right? Like, she doesn't hit hard, but she brings this extra ability that lets everybody else hit harder. So that's good. So if you needed those things on your Clan Boss team, she would bring them. And then the A3 is not a Clan Boss ability, but it can be useful in other places. It's a Revive on Death, but it's only on one target ally. It is for 3 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. It's a very strange Revive on Death. This is one of the earliest champions with Revive on Death. I don't think they quite figured out how to make it work perfectly yet. So most Revive on Death buffs now are 2 turns. So this is one of the only 3-turn Revive on Deaths that I can think of. It may be the only one that I can think of off the top of my head. And so it can be useful. In specific places. You can consider using her in places like Sand Devil's Necropolis with this. But like I said, I think she's been power crept. So pretty good champion. Definitely going to be very helpful for me in faction crypts. But otherwise, maybe not a ton of value for my account at this time. I'll have to see. I might get some value out of her in Doom Tower. Now, one of the reasons why I say for my team, for my roster, she's not as valuable is because this increased attack and cleanse, I get both of those from Runekeeper Dazzler, who is a Void and who's already 60. Right, so she's not bringing that extra thing. And then, of course, I have Deacon Armstrong, who brings me the speed aura. So she's not giving me anything new other than the Revive on Death, and that's the least valuable of her skills. And then there's Cold Heart. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. And then there's Cold Heart. Let me unmute you, Sun. Sun is back. All right. Yeah, that cold hard pull. Oh, that was a good pull. That was a great.
Yeah, I remember thinking while you were doing those pulls, I was like, another rare, and then I see who it is. I was like, oh man, that's awesome. That was so exciting.
It was exciting. All right, let me get your stream up here so everybody can see your smiling face.
It's me.
There you are. Oh, you're tiny. You're tiny and in the corner. Let's get you back up to regular size.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Or we could do this. There we go. Hey, son, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
All right.
That was fun. PC works fine all day, every day, and then right before we go live, everything decides to crash like dominoes around me.
Right.
Well, we seem to be back up and running, and I've got my energy.
Okay.
The champion training begins.
The champion training begins.
12-3 100 times, you're in the right spot.
Yeah, before you get started there, why don't you actually show everybody what you pulled? What void pulls you made?
So void pulls wise, let's see here. So we pulled the Whisper.
You did, yeah.
So I think that was the biggest pull. So apparently one of the best DPS out there.
I've been thinking more and more about that Whisper.
And Umbral. Yeah.
It's really, like, for the long-term health of your account, it's such a good pull.
Yeah.
Because she is such a boss killer. She is such a boss killer. You can use her against every Doom Tower boss. And here's the thing. So, and I have to double check this with her kit, but she brings weaken, right, on her A1?
Right. 75% chance.
Okay. And then does she bring any other debuffs?
I know she has the increase attack and crit, and that's it for as far as debuffs.
Right. So she brings just the weaken. So, but she has a weaken on an A1. So A1 weakens are like one of these things that are highly valuable because you can use them with counter attack builds, right? And you can use them with ally attack builds. So you can get those weakens out more consistently. Plus, obviously, she's void affinity. Now, your Feign is doing a lot of what Whisper would end up doing, but Feign is more of a debuffer than Whisper is. Whisper hits harder than Feign does. So, she's got
the poisons.
Yeah.
Poisons decrease attack.
And like you can definitely use them in conjunction. You can use them together. But you get, the thing about Feign obviously is she has a weak affinity. She is weak into magic affinity, and Whisper has no weak affinity.
Yeah.
So you have these two weakened champions. You have the decreased attack, decreased defense. You have the poisons there from Feign. You've got the ignored defense from Whisper. And I said to you last night at one point, I'm like, I think maybe at some point Whisper may be the better damage dealer. And that
don't say it.
Yeah, you started getting a little bit upset about that.
About girl Feign.
Even with the poisons that Feign brings, I think Whisper may be the better overall damage dealer and even the better clan boss damage dealer. It's hard to say because I haven't actually built a Whisper out to 6 stars and put her in clan boss. So my highest level Whisper is a 5-star. I've built Feign to 6 stars before, but on my main account I have her at 5 as well. So I don't have anything to compare like directly, but just from the kit and from what I've heard, people keep telling me about, like in the last 6 months, I've heard more and more about Whisper, and I'm like, that 100% ignore defense is incredibly strong.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it may just be that she ends up being the better damage dealer. The advantage of having a void champion as a damage dealer can't, or like as a debuffer, like it can't be, I think, overstated, because no weak hits. Like you lose the advantage against one affinity. Feign will crush force affinity bosses, right? She just demolishes force affinity bosses because she's strong affinity. Yeah. She gets the extra damage bonus. Plus, she's not going to weak hit, so she's got all that going for her. You get the extra crit chance. You get 15% extra crit chance when you're strong affinity. But if you're building her to 100%, it doesn't matter. So, you lose that advantage, but then you have no weak hits. So you can take her against every affinity without really thinking about it. I think about this like my Genbo in Arena, right? There are ways to get, like if you have one of every affinity as a nuker, you can actually get more damage out onto the enemy team that way. But I never think about my Genbo as lacking damage. It never occurs to me that he lacks damage. I don't care about the affinity of my targets. It makes everything simpler, right? And he does the job super well. So it's just like, I would rather build one Genbo than build, 3 other nukers, especially as a free-to-play player, especially in the mid game. Like, I don't want to build 4 arena nukers all told. I don't want to do that. Like, eventually you have to, because you have 3v3 arena and you have other places. Like, that's fine. Yeah. You want to do that a year and a half into the game. You don't want to do that in the first 6 to 10 months, And so when I think about it that way, I'm like, just having, if she were your plug and play boss killer of every affinity, every boss out there, be like, use her against every Doom Tower boss, use her against clan boss, use her against every dungeon boss, use her against every, be like, that just makes life easier. And sometimes, as good as Fane is, you've come across moments where you're like, she's not getting the job done because she's weak affinity.
Yeah. The weak affinity definitely does cause problems. So I think she's going to help there. Like you said, in a lot of the dungeons, she's going to be great. Doom Tower. So I'm going to take her to 60.
Yeah.
I mean, she's just looks like an all-around great DPS. I love extra turns anyways. That's one of my favorite mechanics, as you can see with my Wukong and Relentless.
Yeah.
So just even having that built into the kit is awesome. But at the same time, I do have to stand up for my girl Fane a little bit. She's a better debuffer for sure. And she still does awesome damage.
Yeah.
So she's definitely going to have her spots in her places.
One of the things that can happen, though, is as you collect champions and your roster gets more complete, you'll get overlap on the things. Like early on, we talked about this. Like, you want to build 60s that don't overlap. So you don't have a cleanser yet, you prioritize a cleanser. You don't have 100%, AoE decrease attack, you go for that. You don't have an AoE slow, you go for that. You need some turn meter decrease, you go for that. So like, you want to spread it out during your first maybe 10 or 12, 60s. You might double up a little bit. There'll be overlap somewhere because good champions are still good champions. But now like we're starting to see, okay, like you're building out your Royal Guard. That's got a little bit of overlap in terms of the slows, right? Because you have a Sylar out there who has an AoE slow. Now you have a Royal Guard who has a 4-hitter, all have chances of slows. But they're different enough that it doesn't feel like overlap, right? They do completely different jobs.
Yeah, for sure.
But what I'm saying is, at some point, you're going to start getting, you're going to have a tank that has a decreased attack. You're going to have a nuker that has a decreased attack. You're going to have a support that has a decreased attack. You're going to have, a reviver that has a decreased attack. And now you're going to be able to pick, you're like, oh, I've got my Padma with the decreased attack. I've got my, and it's like, now you start putting together pieces to optimize in different ways. Like, rather than just trying to get one of everything onto your team, you start thinking about, well,
get a little bit more nuance with it.
Yeah, if these two champions bring similar things, maybe I can bring a different champion that doesn't bring that thing, that provides something that I don't have on this composition. And the more roles each champion can play, the more flexibility you have in those team compositions, the more complicated it becomes, right? The harder it is to calculate, and the more maybe you have to like figure out the builds and the speed tunes and stuff like that. But potentially, having Whisper with that A1 weaken, like maybe the decreased attack, decreased defense, and poisons that Fane brings at some point are going to be brought by other champions that provide the tankiness that you're currently lacking.
Yeah, that would be the big thing.
So then you get the tankiness, plus you get the debuffs that, Fane would bring. And then Fane gets moved over towards, sort of like she's the Force Affinity boss specialist at that point. And, it's sort of funny that you happen to pull these two champions who do the same job so well. And they are, in fact, very similar. It'd be like if during the next event, like during the Sacred Shard event, you're going to pull Anax, and we're going to be like, you've got they're like 3 exactly the same champions. Do you know what I mean? They all do exactly the same thing. I mean, Anax is another great champion, but really overlaps with Fane quite a bit.
Darn dirty DPS account, man.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the way I like it. And I think, like, like we talked about a little bit last night, I can also put them together because
Yes.
Fane does bring that decreased defense.
Right.
That Whisper means.
Yeah, and if you're going with sort of a glass cannon build, yeah.
Yeah, just both of them just pumping out the damage.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, from a problem solving standpoint, if you're like, well, I really need a tank, I really need to extend the life of my team to get more damage, I really need that, and you can't get it, and you still can't get it, and you still can't get it, then you start thinking about, well, if I'm going to die soon anyway, if there's no way to get past 15 turns, just hit as hard as humanly possible during those 15 turns. Let's get more damage in here. It's funny because, I mean, you've seen the article way back in the day. Like, this is like more than 10 years ago. I wrote an article for the forums for Lord of the Rings Online.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Lord of the Rings Online has a hunter class, just like WoW has a hunter class, and they're pretty similar in what they do. Hunter classes in MMOs are all about bringing long-range damage and, getting crazy numbers. And so in this article, I was kind of defining the characteristics of each of the character classes and the people who play them, And the mentality behind hunters is, you know what? If you hit hard enough, who needs a tank? Right? In fact, if you hit hard enough, who needs heals? If you hit hard enough, you don't need anything. Just get more hunters in here, and like that's sort of the mentality. It's like, literally, if you kill them before they can touch you, then who needs heals? Who needs sustain, right? Now, obviously, that's not a viable strategy with the clan boss because you can't technically kill the clan boss, but there is sort of this switch of mentality where you're like, why don't we just get some more DPS in here and see what happens?
Just some more damage.
Get more damage, I had a buddy back in the day who used to say death was the ultimate CC.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, it's like if it's dead, it's crowd controlled.
As long as I'm not dead, I'm pumping out DPS.
Right. Of course, as soon as he pulled aggro and he had 9 mobs chasing him, he'd be like, run away, run away.
Yeah.
Be like, or you could just let me pull because I'm the tank. It's like, sorry.
Classic WoW, Hunter feigns death, everybody else dies because now there's no solid aggro. Yeah.
I mean, when we were just messing around, he's a very good player. But when we were messing around, it'd be the kind of thing where it's like, he would pull aggro and the healer and I just had a silent agreement that if he pulled aggro, we'd just let him have it.
Yep.
I'd pick up one target. She'd heal me. Wouldn't heal him. And then he can either kill it or die. And if he dies, I pick everything up and we're fine because she hasn't been healing him. If she healed him, she'd pull the aggro, And, after he'd do it twice, he'd be like, guys, I keep dying. Like, yep, you do. And he'd either stop pulling or he'd just keep pulling and we'd have fun reviving him at the end of every fight, Yeah,
that's good old Lotro days.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm sure a lot of people have had that experience with their MMO.
I see we got a Great Dane. Got a good pull. Take a wild guess.
Cardio? Did you get Cardio?
Nah, I mean, I don't know if Cardio is top of the list for me, so I don't know if it's that good, but
one of our viewers did pull a Cardio. Mentioned it in the comments.
I saw that.
So yeah, let's just say hello. Remus Mania, hello, welcome. Shooter 90's back. Undersized Tic Tac is back. Good morning, all. Remember to hit the thumbs up button, everyone. Please do. Let's get this stream out there. Let's see if we can pump those numbers today. It's Saturday. I'd love to hit 100. I think, have we hit 100 yet? I know we hit 99.
Yeah, we've hit like 106.
Yeah. So Dark the Enigma, hello, everyone. Welcome. Yashraj, Cygnus, Mr. Fudan is in the house. Fun and party. Hi, all. We've got Great Dane. What's up, guys? And the Demon King. The Demon King is back. Have some OG Void pulls today. So let's see. Mithrala is 50 now, rank 5. Congrats, Mr. Fudan. That is fantastic. Mithrala is... I don't know that there's a better champion in the game for a free-to-play account than Mithrala. Like, even if you're pulling legendaries from shards and you're getting great legendaries, she just transforms free-to-play accounts. She's great on every account. But congratulations. That's like, it feels like winning the game when you pull her. But by the way, I'm still on I got my second my second account here on my phone still. So let's see what else is going. For Clan Boss, I highly doubt that you can bring Whisper to higher numbers in Clan Boss without very good gear. Then Fane, yeah, it's a good question, but against Magic Affinity, I don't think it would be that hard. I mean, the ignore defense mechanic is so strong in Clan Boss, you know. And if you needed extra poisons, you could maybe put her in a toxic set, you know, if you were speed tuning. But yeah, I just think you want to pump her damage, and you see. For other bosses, the ignore defense is going to be incredibly strong. Undersized Tic Tac says, so thoughts on Rotos? I run Haikatune into Seeker, into Stagnite, then Rotos, but I find him underwhelming as solo attack, plus I'm only... So are you talking specifically about in the arena? Rotos is great in the arena, but he generally works better in a team that has sustain and revive and stuff like that, because he's a single target hitter. And he has that passive where his damage ramps up, and eventually I think he ignores unkillable, or he has a block revive or whatever it is. So with the team that you have, Haikatune into Seeker into Stagnite, you have a turn meter filler into a turn meter filler with increased attack into a drop defense champion, right? Obviously, you also have a decrease attack there. But so that's set up for an AoE nuker. Those three champions are great for an AoE nuker. And Rotos is a great single target arena nuker, but he's not a great go first AoE arena nuker. So you just have a mismatch here between your setup and your nuker. It's not that he's bad. He's amazing. It's just that the setup that you have doesn't suit his style. Excuse me. You know, so you would be better off there probably even with just your starter champion as your arena nuker rather than a Rotos, which I know sounds kind of ridiculous, but that's true because all of the starter champions are AoE nukers. Now, you put a Rotos on a team with an Ultimate Death Knight or a Siphi if you can get her, right? Pair him with a Siphi, a Duchess, you know, a Go second team, a tanky team, a Necrit, you know, somebody who can keep that team alive, get revives, and then he's going to do a lot of work for you. And you got a 4-star blessing on Kale, so that's great. Great Dane says, hell yeah, just pulled a Sifia on my last shard I had. Congratulations, Great Dane. That is insane. Siphi's amazing. She's really fantastic. And yeah, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, that's a sick pull. Congrats, Dane. We'll get a legendary one of these days.
Yeah, let's go take a look. Let's go take a look at Siphi. What makes her so good? She is she's really got almost everything you need from a support. The only thing about her that may be a weakness, and honestly I don't even know that it is that her revive is single target, not AoE. That's the only thing that's like keeping her in check. She's got a stupidly powerful A1, which I hate. I hate this skill when I come up against it in arena. So only attacks one enemy, but has a 100% chance of placing a sleep debuff for one turn if the target's turn meter is equal to or above 50%. This debuff cannot be resisted, so it doesn't require accuracy, and it doesn't matter what the target's resistance is. Heals all allies by 5% of their max HP if the target's turn meter is below 50%. But you can use this to just pick off like a cleanser. So you find the cleanser, you find the Mithrala on the other team, or the Cardiel, or whoever it is that cleanses on the other team. And they're probably going to have more than 50% turn meter when the whole thing opens, when the arena opens. You just pick the cleanser and you sleep them. Right? And you just now you have chance to use your debuffs against it. Now, remember, if you use an AoE and you hit the cleanser, then you're going to wake the cleanser back up. But this like crushes Mithralas. which is so annoying because Mithrala is one of my strongest champions, like in live arena and stuff. She has a place block debuffs on all allies for 2 turns, fills a turn meter of all allies by 10%, which doesn't feel like a lot, but she's probably going to be one of your fastest champions. Her base speed is 114, which is stupidly high. So you've got that. I'm sorry, I got to take you out of there so people can read this. So yeah, places block debuffs on all allies, 2 turns. Turn meter of all allies by 10%. Increased defense and increased speed on all allies for 2 turns. So again, you want her fast so she can get that increased speed out there as well. I mean, you look at her base HP, her base defense. She's got 40 base resistance, which is annoying. And then she's got this revives a single ally with 55% HP and a full turn meter. So it's an incredibly strong revive for a single target. Plus places increase attack and increase crit rate buff on that ally for 2 turns. So they're going to go next and they're going to hit super hard. And then her passive is she heals each ally by 10% of their max HP at the start of their turn. So this is like an inverted Scylla the Drake's passive. Like rather than her turn giving everybody 10%, they get 10% on their turn. So it's basically like everybody has their own Scylla the Drake's passive for themselves. Has a 50% chance of removing freeze and fear debuffs from each ally at the start of their turn. Removes all debuffs from Rotos at his turn. And then you also have ally resistance in all battles by 80%. So sometimes you even put her in the lead, especially if you're like on a go second team. Crazy good. She's void affinity. You know, you don't have to worry about any accuracy at all in her kit because she has 1 debuff. She only affects the enemy 1 time. Right? And it doesn't require any accuracy. It can't be resisted. So you have a support champion that requires no accuracy. Build her super fast, build her super tanky, right? And she's just going to keep your team going. Crazy powerful. Such a good champion. 114 base speed is stupid. That's literally stupid. I think it makes her the 2nd fastest champion in the game. I think Yumiko's 115. No, Yumiko's 105. Who's the 115 champ? There is somebody. Is it somebody else in here? There's somebody at 115. Lady Kimmy. I knew it was Shadowkin. It's Lady Kimmy. 115. Fastest champion in the game. So yeah. So great champion. Actually, I shouldn't say fastest champion in the games because I think the mythics are fast now. Some of them are like 115 or maybe faster. I think the
really,
yeah, I think is it this one? Yeah, she's 115. Arbaeus the Stonethorn, she's 115. I don't know about Lady Mikage. We could look at her. I think she's fast. I don't know if she's 115. I think she is. Yep, she is 115. So it used to be Lady Kimmy, and now we've got several 115 champs. But I don't really think about when I make lists and stuff, like the mythics don't even come into my head. You know, it's like I know that they're there, I know that they exist, but like top 10 champions in the game. It's the 7 mythic champions plus 3 other champions. You know, like that's stupid. I don't even think about it. So all right, let's get you back up on the screen. There he is. All right. So yeah, let's just give a quick look at the chat again. Shooter got himself a Grazur, currently doing some test runs, and Hydra. He's an amazing champion. Grazur came in and just like entered the upper echelon day 1. That's a sick champion. Congrats. Dreist says hi. Hi back.
Howdy,
the Executioner is back. Would you call pulling a Necrit and Krisk good luck? I would call that insane luck. Yeah. If you pulled either one of them, it's insane luck. If you pull them both during the same event, that's stupid. You broke the game.
On the same 10 pull, no less, right? That's the way that would go.
Right. Yeah. Mr. Fudan says, I might have found my Scarab King 100 team in the middle of the fight. Lead Mithrala. Okay, so Mithrala's your lead. Who's Jervis? That's a I don't know Jervis. Is that a misspelling of a name? UDK, Godseeker, Farrakhan. Couple deaths of Mithrala in fight. Yeah, if you find your Scarab King team, that's great. That's great. Snick Track or Vizix, who's the better one overall? Duck asks. Vizix is the better overall champ. I don't think Snick Track is as good as Vizix. He's good, and where he's good, he may be better than Vizix. But as the overall versatility champ, Vizix. Now that's an interesting question though, because yeah, let's go look at that. Let's go look at Snick Track, because I know Vizix really well, but this is a champion I don't know as well. So good base stats, decent defense, strong HP pool, 99 speeds, got some accuracy and resistance in the kit. Decrease attack, single target. Okay. If the target is under leech, has a 100% chance of placing decrease attack for 2 turns. That's a weird conditional. I don't know why that's true. All right. AoE on the A2, 100% decreased speed. This is what I know about him. So this is very useful, right? So Vizix also has an AoE decreased speed. She's void affinity, so she's not going to weak hit where he can weak hit. So I think her AoE decreased speed is better. But this one also places a shield buff on all allies equal to 30% of this champion's max HP, and it cannot be removed if it is placed when there are any enemies under a leech debuff. So if you have one leech debuff out, the shield is basically protected, which is great. Now, in PvE, does that matter? You know, there are only a few boss fights where you have a buff strip kind of mechanic, and if it's protected, that would help. But potentially, you could use it in Hydra. A couple of other places. Ally of protection. This is the other overlap with Vizix. Places a reflect damage buff on all allies for 2 turns, then heals this champion by 50% of their max HP. I was just messing around with reflect damage recently, and you know, we realized that reflect damage is not a great damage ability. It's just not, unless it's Geo, right? Because Geo has that extra mechanic on his reflect where he does 3% max HP damage with the reflect. So yeah, you know, 30% reflect damage is like, who cares? I'm not saying it's nothing. I'm not saying it's nothing, but this isn't like an OP. You're like, wow, 30% of the damage goes back. It's like, it gets mitigated, and then whatever comes through gets reflected, and it's not that much. And then it gets mitigated on the other side, you know, so it's like, I always thought that reflect damage would be more, but it just doesn't do as much as you'd want it to. Can be useful in places like Fire Knight, you know, if you're trying to get extra hits in, stuff like that. The ally protect is good. The passive, whenever an ally under a reflect damage buff is attacked, places a leech debuff on the attacker by 1 turn. So this is an extra ability to make that reflect damage a little bit more worthwhile. And we know that the extra mechanics with leech reflects 50% of the damage this champion receives back to the attacker. That's good. Increases the amount of damage reflected by 20% from reflect damage buffs placed on allies. Why? That's so strange. That's so strange. Why would you have this passive? Why would you have this passive? Why not just make the reflect damage stronger? Means you can pair them with other reflect damage champions and get more value out of reflect damage, I guess. Okay. And then HP in all battles. All right. So here's the thing. What does Vizix do that Snick Track doesn't? She's got an AoE provoke, and she's got turn meter decrease on her A1. Right? That's the difference. And she's void affinity. The A1 alone makes her more viable, like as an all-around usable champion, than almost any other champions. Like, this is the I'm using the word stupid. I'm using the adjective stupid today to describe things that are really good. I guess I'm on a kick. This is a stupidly good A1. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 100% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%, and it's a steal. She gets turn meter fill off of it. She is never going to weak hit. She doesn't require anything but accuracy to land this. So she doesn't need crit rate to land it like a lure does. She doesn't need some conditional thing to be on the boss, right? 30% turn meter decrease every time, with the 3%, exception that everybody has that can resist any effect, right? So 3% of the time it won't work, but it's 100% land chance. Void Affinity, can't weak hit. So few champions are this good at controlling turn meter. And then on top of the turn meter, she's got an AoE decreased speed that's 100%, and she's Void Affinity. So this won't weak hit. So if you want to control a boss's turns, I think this is the best champion in the game to do it in terms of versatility and effectiveness. Allure gets more turn meter decrease. Like there are champions out there who get more turn meter decrease out. Like they have 100% turn meter steals and stuff like that, like Maneater, right? But they have longer cooldowns. And not all of those champions are Void Affinity. Right? And they don't bring the slows. So like I look at Allure, who's the other contender for like queen of turn meter control, right? This A1 is sick. I'm sorry, it's stupid. The A1 is stupid, right? Attacks 3 times at random and decreases the target's turn meter by 25% on each critical hit. So right away, we see it is more turn meter decrease, up to 75%, which is great on an A1 versus 30%. So a lot more turn meter, more than double the turn meter control. But one, it's random, so not as usable against waves. Like you have to, it is usable against waves, but it's not as predictable. 2, she's magic affinity, so she can weak hit. 3, you need 100% crit rate to make sure that this is going to happen. So she's more stat hungry. And when you're trying to build a tank like Vizix, not having to worry about that crit rate makes it easier. So yeah, Vizix is a Void legendary. You're going to need legendary tomes. There are very, very few champions. Stick Track is a good champion. And if you just want him for Clan Boss, maybe you want him for Ally Protect, and you're wondering which champion to build for Clan Boss and Ally Protect, he could be the better option depending on your overall composition. But if you need Ally Protect and you're like, I'm a free-to-play player, I'm early mid-game or mid-game, and I need to get the most value out of every 6-star, you cannot go wrong with Vizix. On my main account, I got Vizix. I was really excited to get her, and I was going to build her out. And I just got distracted by other pulls. I got other pulls, and I left her at 5 stars, fully ascended, level 50, built out. And I used her at 50, and she did a great job in most of the places I needed her to do a good job. And I was like, I don't think you need this champion at 60. I think you can just run her at 50. And then finally, I got a moment to build her to 60, and I built her to 60. And I was blown away by how much better she got. Getting the banner on her with the extra speed and the extra accuracy was helpful, and obviously she got tankier, and that was the big difference. She got so much tankier at 6 stars. She's got an okay HP pool, but her defense is pretty high when you get her to 6 stars. And her speed at 97 is enough. It's enough. But she's got 50 resist in her kit. Like you can build her basically as an unstoppable juggernaut. You just get her high resist, high speed, high defense, get her the accuracy that she needs, and just let her go to town. The AoE provoke is incredibly powerful. No weak hits on this. So Doom Tower waves just get stopped in their tracks. You just get this AoE out there. You can slow the waves, you can provoke the waves, and then you can just kind of single target, pick whoever's got the highest turn meter and just knock them back a bit. She does all of that by herself. You put her with like a Scylla the Drakes who's got an AoE stun and just passively heals her, and these two champions will clear all 120 floors of Doom Tower for you. There's never a reason to take either of them off of your team. You'll swap other champions in and out, but those two champions will be on almost every floor that you go up against, even like the More 2 Macabre floors, even the Siffy floors. Because even on those floors, the AoE provoke plays, right? AoE provoke plays really well against the More 2 Macabre waves. The AoE slows play really well against the Siffy waves. You know, turn meter control plays really well against all those waves. So whenever you put up any champion against Vizix and you're like, who's the better versatility champ? Unless it's Mithrala, it's going to end up being Vizix. She's more usable than almost any champion in the game. She's probably at this point in my account, she's the champion I've added to the most teams in the last 6 months. So Cardiel, Mithrala, and then Vizix. Like crazy, but that's where most of my teams have gone, especially in Doom Tower. Like every time I struggle with any boss in Doom Tower, I'm like, what if I brought Vizix in here? Can't bring her in against Bommel. But I'm like, what if I should bring Vizix in here? I'm struggling with the wave. Let me try Vizix. I want to defeat Spider Boss. What should I do? I got an idea. I'm going to bring in Vizix. If you have Vizix, if you've pulled Vizix from a shard, somebody pulled Vizix from a shard this week, I think, and told me about it and was disappointed a little bit. It's like, I got Vizix. Like you're getting a free Vizix at 270 days. First of all, I would build both of them. I wouldn't empower my Vizix. If I had 2 Vizixes, I would run both Vizixes. I would literally forget about Allure. I would just drop Allure out of like my rotations. I would just bring 2 Vizixes. You can have one do the AoE slow, you can have the other one do the AoE provoke, and then you just swap. That would be stupid. And I would put both of them on Hydra teams. So one would be on my hard, or brutal Hydra team, one would be on my nightmare Hydra team. AoE provoke, AoE slow, ally protect. You don't even care about the decreased turn meter. Shooter says, I run Sneak Track in Brutal Hydra and Vizix in hard, but you have to run her very, very fast to provoke in time. I think mine is 300 speed. Sneak Track is just a million times better at keeping the team alive. And I think Sneak Track A1 can place decrease attack through the poison cloud. I've heard that, actually. That may be true. And in that case, then that's very valuable. And again, like, Sneak Track does things better than Vizix does. I'm not saying that Sneak Track either doesn't have a place or that he isn't very good or that he doesn't do some things better than Vizix does. The question was, who is the better all-around champ? Right? Who's going to give you more value? And there's no way Sneak Track is close to the value of Vizix on an account. But for what he does, if you need him to do what he does very well, then sometimes that's what you want, right? You need a specialist. He's definitely going to be a better specialist in some cases than Vizix is, right? Even though she's sort of an all-around champion, but she's also a specialist in the sense that she's a turn meter decrease specialist. And really, there aren't many champions that you can put up against her. Like it's either Allure or Vizix who's the best turn meter control champion in the game. Like I don't know that there's anybody else who's really entering the conversation. You have Maneater with the 100% steal. You have Cold Heart, who's a rare who gives you 100% turn meter decrease, but it's on a long cooldown. You've got Armiger, who's really cheap to build and does it on his A1, and that's solid. That matches Vizix's percentages, right? So he's incredibly powerful for. He's Sacred Organizer. So he's incredibly powerful for this ability, this A1, because it's 30% decreased turn meter, just like Vizix. Right? So she gets 2 hits, 15% each. He gets 1 hit, 30%. Right? So this is very close from an uncommon, which is why he's so incredibly powerful. But 1, he's not void affinity, so he can weak hit. 2, it requires a critical attack. Right? So you have to build him with 100% crit rate. You don't have to build Vizix with any crit rate if you don't want to.
Yep.
Right? Plus it's a double hitter, which is better on Fire Knight. So, plus she's faster. Plus, she hits harder. Plus, she's tankier. Now, he has a block revive. Again, she can't do that. So if you need a specialist who's going to block revive, you'd rather have Armiger in the fight than Vizix. But Vizix, in terms of all-around values, is crazy, and she's only gone up in my estimation in the last 6 months. Like, every time I think about this champion, I'm like, I think she's still undervalued. It's crazy, and she used to be awful. And the thing about it is, apparently, I didn't have my Vizix when she was awful. But if you go to her page, have they finally reset her page? They didn't. They've never reset her page. So if you look at this, if you go and look at the reviews, there are almost 15,000 reviews of this champion. And she's got like only green ratings in the dungeons that have come out recently, like after her patch, after she was buffed. Because these ratings are all based on the current Vizix. The previous Vizix was awful, apparently. And I didn't have her at the time, so I don't remember what her kit was, that made her awful. But all of these places, it's like she's bad in all of these places. No, she's not. She's phenomenal in all of these places. Like Spider's Den 3.7, I'm sorry, she's fantastic in Spider's Den.
Cool. You gotta fix your camera.
I gotta fix my camera?
Yeah, it's going blurry on you.
Looks okay on this end, but I'll reset it.
There you go, that's better.
And it's like all of these, like, why is she a 3.9 in campaign locations? Like, she's not a campaign farmer, and I'm okay with a 3.9 on campaign, like, for her. Like, if you said that, I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. But then you see other champions who have like 4.7s, and you're like, I would never use that champion as a campaign farmer either. So, what about arena offense, arena defense? Yeah, if you wanted to build her for that, but would you? That's sort of the question. I use her in arena. I do use her in arena, but not. I don't use her in like my main arena team, but I'll spot use her in 3v3 or live arena. But Fire Knight's Castle, sorry, she's a 5. She's the perfect Fire Knight Castle champion. She helps you clear waves, control the waves, get to the boss, break the shield, keep the turn meter down, slow him down. She's literally I don't know that there's another champion I'd put ahead of her for Fire Knight's Castle. Like, Allure is the only one, because that, and her random hits don't matter anymore, and as long as she's not weak affinity, you don't care. But this is maybe the best champion in the game for Fire Knight's Castle. Spider's Den, awesome. She's awesome in Spider's Den. Right? AoE provoke all the Spiderlings. She becomes your Spiderling tank. You know where the Spiderlings are going. She has turn meter control on the boss. She has a slow on the boss, slow on the Spiderlings if you want it. Fantastic. Minotaur's Labyrinth, please. Who's bad at Minotaur's Labyrinth? I mean, there are champions who are bad at Minotaur's Labyrinth, but she's not. I wouldn't put her as a 5 or anything, but like, you see other champions that are rated like 4.7, and you're like, why? Why? And then why would Vizix be a 3.9? Ice Golem's Peak, awesome. Perfect for Ice Golem's Peak. Great for Dragon's Lair. Like, the not as good at Dragon's Lair as the other dungeons, because dragons can't be turn meter control. But still helps you get through the waves. Provides tankiness against the boss if you need it. All the keeps, no problem. Like, turn meter control works against all of the keep bosses. So this is the thing, when you get a buff, like, when a champion gets a buff, they should refresh the reviews and just reset them, because all of these reviews were from before she got her buff. She's not that bad. She's the opposite of that bad.
And that's the thing, if that's all I had to go on were those ratings.
Right.
I would think she's terrible.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
all right. So let's talk a little bit about our NOOB versus Pro series here. So your plan right now, we've got all these events and things going on, and your plan right now is you are doing champion training.
Yep.
And your goal is to get Royal Guard to 6 stars?
Yeah, I'm going to get Royal Guard to 6 stars. He's almost there, actually. A couple more runs. And then I'm probably going to take Whisper up as well. She's already 5 stars now, so.
Okay, so you've got some extra damage dealers in here. That's going to give you some flex in Hydra. And you were talking about that being one of your focuses right now. You're trying to get that first Hydra chest and start working towards Mithrala.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of like a little side goal. I don't know if I can actually hit it, but I want to try to get to the first chest in this week before this reset.
Well, one of the things we were talking about,
do that.
Yeah, one of the things we were talking about last night is you don't have to do it with one team.
Yeah,
like you need 6.7 million for the first chest, but if you got 5 million with one team and 2 million with the other team, that would be enough. So potentially having multiple damage dealers could help if you could put together 2 full teams. Now you don't have 12 60s yet, but you have a lot more. You're getting more and more 60s every day. How many 60s do you have right now?
I think I have 6 right now, and I've got enough food for 2 more. So
okay, so you'll be up to 8.
I'll have 8 before the end of the day.
And then you have some decent 5-star champions, because I know that you have your Anchorite at 5 stars. Do you have your Jamarsa at 5, or is she at 4?
She's at 4.
She's at 4. You have Sepulchre Sentinel at 50. And you have
Yes.
Do you have Nizana at 50 as well?
Yeah.
So your 50s, you've got some strong 50s as well as your 60s. So getting 12 champions might be possible. The thing about Hydra that can be tricky is, we've talked about, you want to typically have at least 2 damage dealers on a composition so that if one gets devoured, you have the other one that could break it free. But when you have the Head of Mischief out there, if the Head of Mischief devours your champion, now all of a sudden you've got an issue, because single target attacks might miss the Head of Mischief based on the passive. It's a 75% chance to be redirected. So AoE damage dealers provide utility against the Head of Mischief if you don't have a Hex. If you do have, you can get a cursed set of artifacts, and with an AoE champion, you can get that Hex out there, and that allows you to handle the Head of Mischief a little bit. But I don't think you've put together a Hex set yet, have you?
No. Yeah, I don't think I have enough pieces.
But we did say that you do have a good champion for it, potentially, because you could put it on your Anchorite. And your Anchorite is a support who's not really there to do damage, so you don't care about, messing with his damage. But he has an AoE on his A1.
Yeah.
So that would be a perfect, cursed set champion. Get that Hex out there, solve your Head of Mischief problem. And that could potentially get you to your first chest, which would be very cool.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's what I'm hoping for.
Okay, so for me, I'm looking at the list of events and tournaments here. So this is tournament. So the champion training is up at the top. And then the next one is Classic Arena Takedown. Then we have the turn attack for the Dragon's Lair, and that's Knights Revenant. Now, what I've been able to do is, the team that I put together for the video, if anybody's watched that video on the Dragon Turn Attack composition, the team that I put together in that video, I've now gotten to 95% or better success rate on stage 10 of Dragon. So I could definitely do this one. And in fact, I did a little bit of it yesterday, not much, because I was waiting for all the energy. So let's see how many points I've gotten here. Probably 150 points or something. No, I'm at 234. So I could absolutely climb to the 2250 here easily enough. And it looks like people aren't going off on this tournament. The highest total right now is only 2,900. So potentially I could get up into the top 5, maybe. Get an extra shard or some gems or some primal quartz or something.
Yeah.
But the trade-off right now is that there's a 3-time speed event. Speed gear event. In the dungeons, in the Dragon's Lair. And I can farm stage 19. So the trade-off is, do I do the turn attack tournament and go for the Sun Wukong souls and all those rewards at stage 10? Now, stage 10 isn't bad, because stage 10 doesn't drop 3-star gear anymore. So it's all 4-star gear and 5-star gear. So I have chance at 5-star gear here, or I can go up to 19. Now 19 still drops 4-star gear, I think. But it also drops 6-star gear, obviously. And, you know, it's a much better chance of a higher rarity at this point. So if I really wanted to get as much good gear as possible, I should be farming stage 19. But if I want to get those points, I need to farm stage 10 because I can't go above 10.
Yep.
Now, the problem for me, to a certain extent, is that I didn't do either of the turn attack tournaments. And I don't know how many points I'm going to actually end up getting. I'm not getting the 4-star Wukong Soul. Like, I don't think that's going to be possible for me. You're still on target to get it, right?
Yeah, I did the first 2 turn attack tournaments, and the way that it ended up working out with my pulls, because I thought I wasn't going to be able to get the 100 from the champion chase, but since I can get those, I'm foregoing both the dragon attack and the ice golem.
Gotcha. So I think
that allows me to get hard on the champion training, which is in my bones. I love
it. Yeah, right. That's your jam. So you can see I've only gotten 120. You can just see the number there. I've gotten 125 points total so far. I did get the 100 points from the champion chase. And then I think did I get the 100 points from the champion chase?
Did you? I don't think you did.
No, I didn't.
I haven't gotten.
I'm sorry. I'm
yet.
thinking about my main account. I didn't get the 100 points. I got the points from the masquerade path or whatever it was. I got 100 points from that.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to be able to get to this 300 points just fine. There's still 2 weeks left of, stuff. And I only need 175 more points. So I feel like that'll be reachable. The third one at 600 points might be out of my reach. I'm not really sure. That would be nice because that gives you the second effect of the blessing. So for instance, if you're going for the Reaper one, whatever that's called, the blessing, which is a good blessing for him potentially. I don't know why I can't think of the blessing name right now. Soul Reap. So if you're going for Soul Reap, this buffs the target HP threshold from 4% up to 8%. So that's significant. So even getting the 3-star soul here would be a nice improvement. But obviously the 4-star soul is where you get the extra crit damage. So if you can get the 4-star soul, that makes him so much more valuable as a damage dealer. Yeah. But even the 3-star soul would be really nice. And then, of course, if you have the 3-star soul, the 4-star soul has a chance of showing up in the shop. And the 4-star souls are still purchasable for the lesser essences. So when you go to the soul merchant here, the 4-star souls are still these essences, not the... So they're still the silver essences, not the gold essences. Because I think that's the 5 and 6 stars are the gold essences. I'm pretty sure, anyway. Anybody confirm or deny that for me? I'm pretty sure that 4 stars are still the regular essences. The immortal soul essences. So I would like to get that, but realistically, it's just not going to happen. On my main account, it's going to happen just fine, which is great.
People are saying lightning cage monkey.
Yeah.
I think that's what I put on.
Yeah, lightning cage is an interesting option as well. So there's been a lot of talk about this one. So again, you're getting that 25% crit damage, you're getting the extra attack. But you get lightning orbs whenever an enemy receives a buff or has their turn meter filled. Stacks have a 50% chance to protect a random buff from being stolen, removed, or transferred. And then bonus damage inflicted by each lightning orb stack is equivalent to 2% of an enemy's champion's max HP or 1% of a boss's max HP. So this is definitely good for PvE as well, if you're trying to do more damage. But I think really if you're trying to do more damage in PvE, you go with Brimstone. Right? Now, that doesn't give you the crit damage, so that's one of the reasons to go away from that. But it gives you accuracy, which makes you land your debuffs more effectively, I guess. I don't know. I like, I personally, if you're gonna make him a nuker, I like Soul Reap on nukers. I think Soul Reap on nukers is, on AoE nukers, it's, I think, the most versatile, or not the most versatile, because it's not versatile. I think is usable in a number of places. So it's great in arena, but it's also great in wave content. So whether it's a PvE nuker or a PvP nuker, if you can get this to 5 stars, forget about the 6 stars. 6 stars is insanely powered. But if you get this to 5 stars, the HP threshold is 14%. That means you get a champion to 13% and it just dies, right? Because the thing about this Reaper is the Reaper ignores defense and damage reduction skills, effects, and buffs. So unless you have an unkillable buff, the Reaper just goes through it.
Yeah, that's kind of sick.
So strengthen doesn't matter. Shields, I don't know if shields matter. But I think if you get to the threshold, would the shield be up? It would have to be something that ignored the shields to get around the shields. That'd be a little bit weird, but potentially possible. But so ally protection doesn't matter. Increased defense doesn't matter. Just ignores defense. You know? So ignores passives that reduce damage. So you hit the threshold, and in most cases, the champion, the target just dies. So I think this is incredibly powerful. But there are other, sometimes if you're going against the boss, you don't care about that because you can't use Soul Reap against the boss. So if you're using this champion in boss fights, then yeah, you'd probably want something else. I think I'm going to run some Dragon's Lair right now. I'm just going to run stage 19 here.
Do it.
I'm going to run 5 of these, and then we'll go check out chat, see how people are doing. All right. So Mr. Fudan says, Vizix was a main champ in my Fire Knight 25 team that Cold Red built. See Takeover Tuesday video last week. And Vizix and other champs took me from 20 to 25 stages in Fire Knight. Vizix is 5.9 in my book. 5.0. Yes, that was a fun takeover. It took like 2 hours to complete that takeover. But that was a fun takeover. We went from Fire Knight 20 all the way up to 25, cleared all the stages in between, did it with one team, didn't have to swap out anybody. That was really fun. And yeah, but I don't think I need to talk more about Vizix today. I think I got plenty of Vizix time in. She was bad back in the day. Nizana and Sepulchre Sentinel. Oh, that's a lot of protection, Mitty says. Yes, it is a lot of protection. And so, the thing about Sun that you need to know is that he's a dirty DPS. And I'm a tank, right? I'm a support player and a defense player. And he's an assassin and a trickster and a DPSer. So, he's leaning into the Royal Guard and the Whisper when he's got the Nizana and the Sepulchre Sentinel sitting on the sidelines at level 50. And you know what? It's probably going to work just fine. But I like Sepulchre Sentinel and Nizana. I think they're good champions that he will probably at some point run up to 6-star. I'm assuming. Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, that's kind of the plan. Is I take Royal and Whisper up right now. But while I'm doing that, I'm farming enough food for another 6-star. I've got 2 5-star chickens, so I don't need that much. So then I'm probably going to take one of those 2 up. I just haven't decided which one yet.
Undersized Tic Tac says, Head of Mischief is such a pain on my mini account. I do have a Thylesia, which helps a little. And that's true, because she can spread that hex. And I have a Thylesia on this account as well. And so I haven't built her. She's still at 4 stars, but when I start thinking about Hydra, she may be a champion that I have to bring up if I can't put together a good cursed set. Stage 10 would be better energy per run. Also, you could just sell all the 4-star gear and gain extra silver. Of course, that would be the trade-off. That'd be the trade-off. But at stage 19, I could potentially get 6-star epic speed gear with speed substats, which would be insane for my account. All I need is like 2 pieces of that, and my Runekeeper Asdert gets faster, or my Deacon Armstrong gets faster, or my Athel gets faster. I need speed on a lot of champions, so 6-star speed gear is high priority as well.
Yeah, for sure.
The Fatal Virus is here. Hello, welcome back. If you go Nuke Wukong, I would go for Life Harvest for sure. Okay. I think, one of the nice things about the blessings is there's a lot you could do. Like I run my, I'm trying to think of what I have on my Genbo. It's the Ignore Defense one, which also works great. Now he's an epic. He doesn't have access to all of the legendary blessings. I don't think that many things mitigate Soul Reap, but then again, I could be wrong. I mean, it ignores all the decreased damage and defense buffs. But if you have a block damage or an unkillable, it doesn't. Those can ignore it, or like those can counteract Soul Reap. Soul Reap works on dungeon bosses. It does. I guess what I mean against bosses is like, when you're clearing waves, you get those champions down to the thresholds relatively quickly. If you're fighting a boss for 15 turns and then Soul Reap activates at the very end because you've gotten it down to 3%, it's like, okay, it's not useless. But against a clan boss or a Hydra boss, well, I wonder if it works against Hydra bosses. I suppose it should. It might be more useful in Hydra than it would be in clan boss. Obviously, it doesn't work at all. The Fatal Virus says, just finished Frostbiter in 50 minutes. Coffin Smasher HP burn is not reliable. Yes, that is true. You want a reliable HP burn for Frostbiter, or you want a block revive. Right? You can also do it with a block revive. Hellstar says, good evening, Cole, and hiya, chat. Welcome. Good to see you.
Hello.
The Executioner says, Colred, I need help with Arena. I don't know what team to build. Well, I would highly recommend you take a screenshot of your roster, put it into our Discord community in roster help. There's all sorts of different roster help sections. There's one for Arena. Put it in there and ask for help there. I'm happy to chime in, but we've got a lot of players who will give you good advice there. So if you don't have a Go First Arena team, maybe there's a Go Second Arena team. Maybe there's some funky cheese strat mechanic team that you can do with like a Cardinal or a Paragon or something.
Oh yeah, funky cheese strats.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think you're right that bosses will survive Reaper sometimes, right? Because they get like the damage mitigation that it ignores is the normal one, not the intimidating presence or whatever that's called that all the bosses get. Kevin Sykes says, what's up, Cole Red? What's up, Kevin Sykes? We're just chilling. We're having fun. We're watching. Sure. I'm running Dragon 19, I think, and Sun is just campaign farming like a boss. We've got the best streaming content in the game, people. We just run auto battles and talk. That's all we do. We just run auto battles and talk. Okay. So I Firstborn for the Frost Spider works seems like an amazing clan boss epic. So I Firstborn is very good, actually. Let me see if I can pull her up. I've got my accounts going right now.
I can pull her up.
Yeah, why don't you pull her up?
No, I was good because I have her.
No, I mean, I was going to pull her up on hellhades.com because I got my game running. Your game's also running, so you can't pull her up either.
Sure can.
But Suai is a very good... so I think... Do you have Suai, or do one of us...
Yeah, I've got
you have Suai. Yeah, you do have Suai. So the funny thing about Suai is you've got Whisper, you've got Fane, you've got Suai, and we're talking about Annex. Like, these champions all do the exact same thing for the most part, or not the exact same thing, but they cover the same role. So she has a decreased defense. She's a single target hitter for the most part. She does have a nice AoE actually. She has a decreased attack and she has a weaken. So she brings your weaken and your decreased defense, and she hits very hard, and so she's good for clan boss. That being said, she doesn't bring poisons. She does bring a decreased attack, which is nice. And that's on an AoE, so she can help you a little bit in wave content. And her AoE hits decently hard.
Yeah.
But her A3 is before attacking, it places the weaken. So you're always going to have that weaken up on the A3. And then it's got crazy multipliers and it just hits really, really hard. But she suffers from the same problem that most direct damage dealers suffer from, which is when you get to the upper tiers of clan boss, there's so much mitigation there that her numbers drop off, whereas Poisoner's numbers increase. So, when you get to Nightmare Hydra and Ultra Nightmare Hydra, not Hydra, I'm sorry. When you get to Nightmare Clan Boss and Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss, you basically want poisons. There are very few exceptions, maybe HP burns, and Suai doesn't bring those. But for other bosses, for non-clan bosses, she's very strong. She doesn't bring anything specifically for the Frost Spider. Right? So you would need an HP burn there or a block revive to stop that respawn mechanic. So while she would be good at bringing damage to that team, she doesn't solve the spider for you. She's just a damage dealer. And typically damage dealers aren't solutions for most things. Right? Your solutions are generally utility champions or support champions. That's not always true. Sometimes a damage dealer can be a solution. Like in Arena, right? If you have a go first team and you're just waiting on that perfect Arena nuker, and then all of a sudden you pull Genbo, or you pull Leorius the Proud or something, you're like, oh yeah, that's my solution. Now I'm done there. But it still requires setup. It's your solution because it's the last piece of the puzzle, I live by running auto battles. I have 4 kids. LOL. Anyways, just wanted to say, love your channel, bro. Thanks for all you do. Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. That's great. And good luck with those kids. I understand the auto battles thing. Also, look into RSL Helper. That might make your life a bit easier as well. I still have to. Yeah. I've re-downloaded RSL Helper, but I haven't dug into it again. And it can be kind of complicated to get set up. And the Discord, the software is, I believe the developer who created it is a guy who lives in Germany. I think he lives in Germany. He's German speaking. And so his Discord is multilingual. There's different channels for different languages. And sometimes the English language directions are a little bit confusing because, they're not perfectly, it's not perfect English, which is totally fine, by the way, because he's putting out a piece of software and then translating into 7 different languages. So that's crazy, helpful. Thank you for doing so. But sometimes you need to find an experienced player who knows the RSL Helper pretty well, who can kind of clue you in as to all of the different uses for it. I've used it primarily as an auto battler, but you can use it for gear leveling and selling gear, and there are all these different things that you can do it, and it has some functionality that overlaps with the optimizer. So I think you can get teams, and you can track your mercy on your shard pulls with it. So there are all sorts of things you can do with RSL Helper, and if you've got 4 kids, the more help you can get, the better. Tulsi Mahato. Hello, Colred and Sun. Greetings from Nepal. Well, greetings back from the East Coast of the United States. Thanks for hanging out. Nepal. I think that's a new one for us.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is kind of cool. We have a very international flavor here on our streams. Our first stream, in the first 20 minutes, we had 14 different countries represented.
Yeah.
And that was fun. That was fun. And we've gotten additional countries added to the list, so that's always great. I think it helps that we stream at weird times, I think, for Americans. So our stream times are generally better for the other side of the globe.
Saturday at 11 a.m. Doesn't seem that.
Although it must be very late in Nepal right now. I imagine it's got to be at least 12 hours change in time zone, right? It's like it's like 11 or 12 or 13 hours difference.
Oh, here's something that might be interesting to talk about.
What's up?
You can use RSL Helper to run multiple instances of RAID through Plarium Play.
That's interesting.
Lesser known and slightly hidden features. Well, because I know that you've been having issues with your BlueStacks. Maybe that's
I have been.
That's something to look into.
That is something to look into. David Grebby, thank you.
Yeah, if you've got more info, shoot that my way.
Yeah, if you haven't joined our Discord community yet, don't forget to smash the like button.
Hit the like button. Smash it. Break it down.
Smash that like button. Don't hurt yourself or your computer or your keyboard or your monitor. So it's more of a metaphorical smashing.
No, we're breaking that. That
like
button.
It doesn't help me. It doesn't help me if my viewers break their hardware. So, that's why we say it so softly. We're not like, smash that like button. We're like, smash that like button. Because we just want you to. Sandboxing works too for multiple RAID instances. I mean, I've used BlueStacks to run multiple RAID instances, but my BlueStacks currently is broken. And I got frustrated after about 48 hours, and I haven't tried to fix it since. So I'm just playing on my phone again, which I got to be honest, I like more than BlueStacks. Playing on my phone is better than playing on BlueStacks.
Yeah.
The only downside is that the screen is so small, so I can't, like when I'm doing certain things, I like to have the full screen, like the big monitor. But most of the time, my phone is much faster than BlueStacks.
I got my champion chase done. Nice.
Excellent. It's 10:11 p.m. right now in Nepal. So it looks like it's about a 10-hour time change. Okay, I thought it was more than that, but I guess it's about 10 hours. Now we're changing the clocks again this year. And that's coming up.
Is it really?
Yeah, I think so. I think that.
How about we just don't do that anymore?
Well,
How does that sound?
That legislation was passed last year to get rid of daylight savings.
Right? I thought I heard something about that.
It was passed.
I know there was talk about it.
It was passed in the U.S. and it was originally, I think it was put on a 2 or 3 year time frame. Like it wasn't going to happen immediately because we needed time to like get businesses and schools and stuff like in line for their scheduling. So they wanted to give some forewarning. So I think it was supposed to happen in 2024. And then apparently the new Congress came in and like delayed it or something. So I'm not sure if it's happening anymore. But there was some kind of delay. Somebody put a hold on it, and now it's not going to happen on the timeline it was originally going to happen on. It's such a better idea. It's such a better idea to not change your clocks. And the reason we changed the clocks is very old-fashioned, and it's not in keeping with like life in the world anymore. But the other thing that like wasn't really considered when the original change was was implemented was how much it messes with the workday and with people. And one of the things that happens is the day after the clock is changed, I forget whether it's the fall or the spring, is the day in the US where the most car accidents happen. Because people lose an hour of sleep. So everybody, whatever you were getting before, if you were getting 8 hours, now you get 7. If you were only getting 4 hours, now you get 3. Because you lose that hour. And so the day after the clocks change, there are more car accidents in the US than anywhere else. Or any other day. Not anywhere else in the world. I don't know about that. But.
Human death toll? But more light time, though.
Right, right.
I never understood that, because it's, if you're in the population section that the, like they say, I've heard it was for like farmers and stuff like that.
Yeah, there are
Then
reasons to
then
do it.
y'all get up an hour earlier. Have fun.
I mean, there are reasons to do it. It happens differently depending on the latitude that you're at, right? Because like the further up north you are, the bigger the change in the sunlight, like seasonally, right? How many hours a day you get. So like if you're in Florida where you are, you might not notice a huge shift in the daylight hours, over the course of the year. Whereas if you're in Maine, there's a much bigger shift. Now, it's not as big as like if you go up into, British Columbia and go up to Alaska and stuff like that. There, it's even a bigger shift. So kind of depends on where you are in the country, like, how far north you are. But yeah, it's the reasons for it. The primary reason for changing the clock at this point in time is that we've always been changing the clock. So we're used to it. And some people don't like change. And some people think, well, no, it makes sense. You get more daylight this way. It's like, but the reality is, as soon as you switch the clock, all the negatives go away and people will just adjust. And I don't think it's potentially, like, it's not really problematic to anybody to go back to a non-switching time. In fact, some states already ignore it. Some states just don't do it, which is kind of weird.
Amen.
So it's not like a federally mandated thing. It's a little bit strange. Yeah, see, the Enigma right here says they don't have daylight saving times in Arizona. It's like Arizona is just like, we don't need it. There's no point, so we ignore it. Which means half the year they're in the wrong time zone, right? Because all the states around them switch and they don't. So now you drive across the border of Arizona and you have to change the clock.
As it should be.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a strange thing to change the clock. It really is. And I don't know why we've been talking about this for so long, but we don't need to change the clock. It is coming up though. I think so this current time change, when does the time change happen? November 5th. So daylight savings time started on March 12th, which is my birthday. Started on March 12th this year and will end on Sunday, November 5th. So 238 days out of the 365 days we have daylight savings time.
All right, you want to watch 2 6-stars?
Yeah, let's hang on. Go ahead. So who are you using as food? Gotta go get your food.
Yeah, I was about to say I gotta go. Every time I see Diablos now, I'm reminded that I accidentally leveled the wrong 1 to 5 star.
Look at all those.
Yeah, it's kind of satisfying, right?
Yeah.
All the same. For some reason, my mind just goes for that. I try to do that every time.
Well, that's a good way to do it. You should use the champions that drop as your food champion, because that way you don't throw off your like the distribution of brews for the rest of your count, because those are the free champions. So you use them up, unless you're going to do what you did. If you do the brew trick on them, then you want to spread it around.
Yeah.
By the way, you could use those other Diabolists as faction guardians as well. It doesn't just have to be 2 of each.
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
Like if you have 4 copies of Diabolist, you can put all 4 in the faction guardian.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Good point. All right.
Well, congrats. Ooh. All right, so show me all your 6 stars. I want to see how many 6 stars you have.
So I've got my Monkey, Fane, Sylar, Deacon, Kale, Apothecary, Royal Guard, and Whisper.
It's 8. You got 8. All right.
Yep.
Let's take a look at
And
my.
I might have 9 before the end of the day.
All right. Triple speed rate drops. No speed gear.
Classic.
All right. Let's take a look at my champions. All right, so I've still got 6. I've got 6 stars. So the 2 that you made today, I can't match. But you were not ahead of me anymore. So this is now you've leaped back ahead. So I've got my 6 here. And this is a pretty good 6. My 7th is going to be Cold Heart. She's currently at 3 stars, so I've got to run her all the way up.
Yeah.
You know, and I have not geared her out or anything yet. I haven't even decided how to build her yet, because there are different ways you can build her. I have some pretty good crit damage. I think they're crit damage gloves in the crit damage set. Let me see if I can find these. Yeah, so I have these, which are crit damage with a crit rate substat. So, and they're 5 stars. So those would be the optimal. My camera went again. So those would be the optimal piece, like on my set currently for her. If I could get that, boost that crit damage as much as possible, make sure she's at 100%. But I also need her accurate to drop that turn meter. So, you know, the question is, do I put her in relentless or reflex? Do I put her in perception and speed? You know, I don't know. We'll have to see how much accuracy I can get out of my substats. Because as you climb up into those higher levels of dungeons, you need to, if you don't have the accuracy, there's no point, right? In having that turn meter decrease. It'll still hit hard. But that 100% turn meter decrease is what makes her so incredibly valuable in all those boss fights, right? Like on top of everything else. It's really the thing that rounds out her kit. So when CVC hits, I'll book her out. And then I'll start running her up. I mean, I'll run her up during this champion training, but right now I'm focused on Dragon, so I'm gonna get that speed gear. Gear is more and more becoming my bottleneck.
Yeah, I'm starting to get there too.
It's definitely the kind of thing where it's like, I've got champions now that can do great jobs, and if I want to climb in Clan Boss specifically, I need better gear. If I want to get better in Arena, I need better gear. I have not been able to increase the speed of my Runekeeper Dazzdirk for like 2 weeks, maybe. And the last time I increased it was like I increased it by 5. So unless I get a roll during these dragon runs where I get like 6-star speed boots, that would be nice. I don't have 6-star speed boots on anybody. So if I could get 6-star speed boots, that would be an improvement. If I could get some good speed pieces with speed substats where I get double rolls or triple rolls, because I'm basically running most of my gear with single rolls, and a lot of the double rolls that I have are on 4-star pieces. So a 6-star piece with a single roll, like one, you know, the base roll plus 1 roll, is as good as a 4-star piece with a double roll. So you're getting like a whole extra roll on from moving from 4 stars to 6 stars.
Yeah.
So, you know, that would be good. Obviously, more attack, more crit rate, more crit damage would be good on my damage dealers. More accuracy on my debuffers. So it's all about those substats. Got to have the substats, man. Maybe I should bring Wukong back in here so I don't have to deal with this Captain Tamila or whatever her name is. She gets a block damage for 1 turn, but she moves so slow that I take like 15 turns before she drops her block damage. Just slows these runs down. It doesn't prevent anything. Right? Doesn't affect the success chance at all. It just adds an extra minute to the run. It's like, there's another one right here. She's going to do the same thing. Maybe I'll try to kill her first. The thing about my Frozen Banshee in this team is that she does all right. Like, she does decent damage, but she doesn't do enough damage that it makes a huge difference. Like, she doesn't stop the boss from, now I gotta change skills again. All right, change targets. She doesn't prevent the boss from like getting his, she doesn't break the purple bar. She doesn't do that. She does decent damage, but it's like I could use a better wave clearer here. And Sun Wukong would be good, but he's only 5 stars. Oh, maybe I'll bring him in after this, and I'll see how he does.
Dare you, good sir?
Dare I what?
5-star monkey?
Yeah.
He's not even 6 stars yet.
No.
It's your one Lego, man.
Yeah, who cares?
Wow, the disrespect.
I don't care.
Do you see me farming 12, 3, and 8 seconds over here? All right.
That is true.
The power of the monkey.
Yeah, you have turned him into your campaign farmer, and that saves you a ton of time.
So much time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kale would take like 30 seconds per run.
And he's taken what, 13 there?
Yeah, he does between 8 to 13.
That's very
depending on
very
if he
fast.
gets an extra hit with the relentless. Yeah.
Yeah, I could potentially get some value out of doing that. I mean, I could get value out of turning him into 6 stars. Why not? He's going to help me in arena. He's my buff stripper, so having him hit harder is good. The reason I've delayed for 2 reasons. One is I keep thinking I'm going to pull somebody, right? Like I keep waiting for the next shard event and the next shard event.
Yeah.
And then during those shard events, I get somebody who's going to add value to my squad, but I don't get a legendary. So like this time around, I got Cold Heart. So she's going to be my next 6 star. I'm going to skip Wukong for Cold Heart. And that makes sense, right? Because Wukong, for my account, does pretty well at 5 stars. He's still stripping buffs in arena. Like, he would get better. I'm not saying he wouldn't. There's a 5-star speed piece. That's good. But like, I'm not going to get as much value out of running him from 5 stars to 6 stars as I would just adding a 6-star Cold Heart to the roster. She's going to do stuff that he can't do. She's going to give me value in places where he doesn't. So that's what has happened multiple times now. I keep getting, like, I got Stagnite. All right, well, I got to run him up. Then I got, so it just kept going. First one was Runekeeper Dazzler. Like, he obviously was going to be the next 6-star, so I haven't had a really good moment to 6-star him. But the second reason I'm delaying, and honestly, this is just a little bit of like an internal thing for me, is I kind of want to not use him that much. Like, maybe I should for content, like everybody has him, but I also kind of want to challenge myself to like get the account into a good place without a legendary. Like, focus on rares, focus on epics. And then when you get that first legendary that you pull from a shard that is a game changer, then you can invest in that champion. But like, the experience of having a new account is always different depending on what your free login reward champion is. There are times where there are no legendary login champions. This is not a new thing. They've been doing this for about 2 years. But in the 2 years that they've been doing this, I would say the uptime on the events is a little bit, it's like 60%. There's like 40% downtime where there's just no login reward champion that's a legendary. No extra one. You go back to the regular rotation and you have like 2 or 3 epics that you get instead. And so I kind of feel like this is an adulterated form of a new account when you have Wukong. Now that's not really fair because everybody's got her, or everybody's got him, but and whoever your legendaries are, you should use them to maximum effect. But in the back of my head, I just want to be like, let's see what we can do without Wukong.
This sounds like a great excuse to why you don't have as many 60s.
That's the third reason. The third reason.
Get good. Gotta get good on that champion training.
The third reason is I'm just awful at this game. I don't know what I'm doing. I really don't.
The noob is victorious. So Ian in the chat said, check hydro damage, don't need 6 million. And that is true.
Oh,
At least for normal.
the big chest is 6.7. The top chest is 6.7.
Yeah, it's 1.67 for
right.
the first one.
Right. No, that's a good call. It's been a while since I've farmed down there, and I just have that number in my head, 6.7 million. But 6.7 million is for the max chest. You're right. So for the very first shards, all you need is what, like 1.6 or something?
Yeah, 1.67.
So
now here's my thing. I don't know how far I have to go to get points for these hydro clashes.
You need 30 million.
I'm getting 35 million.
On the lowest chest for third place, what's the number?
I mean, they're all the same, but it says 35 million plus.
Okay, so you need 35 million.
Chee.
Now, the way that the Hydra Clash works is as you go up in difficulties, you get multipliers. So you don't need 35 million in Brutal because you get a multiplier for Brutal. I forget what it is. It might be 2 times the multiplier or 3 times multiplier for Brutal. So, you would only need the result to be over 35 once you've multiplied the damage. But for normal, you need 35 million. Now,
that's not happening.
No. But you're talking about what's considered an end game mechanic. Like Hydra Clash is supposed to be the thing that basically you start late game and go into end game, right? And it's the thing that like the high level clans are competing with, and so anybody who's got 150 6-star champions and they're trying to, they've got a bunch of empowered legendaries and stuff. They're the ones who this content was really made for. And then they kind of like scale it backwards so that everybody gets something, but it's really not particularly useful. Even on my main account, which I'm over 900 days into the game. I've got, whatever it is, 86-star champions. Like we get into the top 5 every other week. We get a couple of pieces. I've collected a few of the artifacts, but it's just I did
I've
a
got
key.
My end game build right here.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah, just use the key for the mission. But so I was telling you the story. Like, so last week we were in kind of a close fight for third place. We were in fourth place. We were a couple 100 million out of third place. And so I ran my team. So my brutal team, the team that typically clears brutal, can 1-key brutal, doesn't always 1-key brutal. Like in some rotations, it's a 2-key brutal. Sometimes I just give up because it takes 2 hours to get my 1-key and I don't care. So I just run 2 teams instead to get my chest. But the team that's capable of 1-keying brutal, it maxes out at whatever 30 million or whatever that is. And then with the multiplier, it was giving me about 100 million or something, whatever it was. I forget. It was giving me a certain amount. I took the same team and I put it into to normal, and I got 180 million on a single key. So I got way more value out of dropping the difficulty level and just playing it out. But I told you, it took an hour on full auto to run that fight to get my 180 million.
Yeah.
And because of the way Hydra Clash works, in a lot of cases, you wait until sort of the end of the week, the last day or so, to determine when it is you're going to use your big teams, where you're going to put them, like, and, how far are you behind, and if you're going to worry about it and stuff like that. So we were in contention, so I decided to do this, and I ran it for an hour, and I completed it. And I actually ran it twice, because the first time it stopped at like 60 million and died. I got unlucky with something. And so I ran it again. So the whole thing took me almost an hour 40 or something to get done. And in the meantime, after I like recorded my thing and I thought it was going to get us within about 50 million, I went and I looked at the score sheet, and the clan that was in third place had jumped up by like 400 million. So I don't know how many players it took to jump up 400 million, but they had actually increased the gap. And so we didn't get our chests. Like we finished in 4th place and we didn't get any chests. And that just feels frustrating and stupid. Like, and this time I mean stupid in like the not intelligent way. Like, it doesn't feel like that's how it should work. It feels like everybody who participates, you know, regardless of how well you do, you should get some kind of reward based on your personal participation. And maybe the clan reward can be based on, you know, finishing in the top 3, but your personal chests should just be available. I did 180 million damage on a single key. Like, just give me 2 accessories, like protection, you know, like that's why I'm there. And because my clan didn't quite do that well that week, and it's not like their fault. Like, they've won other weeks that I've missed. That's happened. Like, I've had weeks where I haven't contributed that much, but the clan still did well. So I think it's just one of those things where they've made it. It's like, oh, hey, Hydra Clash is really for end game clans. It's like, it doesn't have to be. It could be for everybody. And it could still be a great challenge. It could still be an end game challenge, but it doesn't have to be focused solely on end game. And I think when you're making a situation where it's like, there's a very powerful reward to Hydra Clash, because you can get stone skin and protection accessories, which allows you to take those buffs from the 6-star bonus, or not 6-star, 6-piece bonus, to a 7, 8, and 9-piece bonus. Those bonuses are incredibly powerful. And so what they're basically saying is, you need to be in, 1, a clan that can compete at a high level. 2, you need to personally do a ton of damage in order to get any chests that are worthwhile. You know? And then 3, if you're already that powerful, we're going to give you more power. As opposed to going to newer players and saying, hey, this is an extra way you can get a little bit of power. Add it to the power that you've got and help progress your account. Instead, it's like, if you've already solved the game, because anybody who's doing 1 billion damage in Hydra Clash has already solved the game, right? The reward,
Yeah, that's true.
The reward of that extra piece might not be insignificant, but it's not providing additional solutions. It's just another way to compete with other players who are already also at total end game. You know, so it becomes more of a liability at that point if you don't get the win. Because it's like, all right, if we lose in the first week and say we came in 4th or 5th place, now the teams that we were competing against have this extra power bonus over us. We're not going to be able to catch them. So we have to drop back, beat some weaker clans, get the pieces to like increase our power, and then match up with the higher clans again. So you're like punished for losing in that case, you know, like a lot against those other things. But like the reward for winning isn't like, oh, hey, you can now do better job in anywhere. Who cares? Because you've already solved literally everything. So it's only a PvP kind of bonus, or, you know, Hydra's PvE content, but it's a competitive environment. Whereas I think if you gave, you know, a level 65 account access to these accessories, that would actually help them unlock content that they can't do yet. You know, and it's not like an OP kind of unlock. You know, it's not like all of a sudden you're just opening up the vault and being like, take all the perfect gear. It's not like that. You know, because you still have to put together a team, you still have to accomplish the goal, and then it's just accessories. So you still have the random chance of it not landing on the faction. You know, the accessories still have to have the stats that you want and all that. But just having this little bit of extra flexibility to maybe, like, you can put together 2 4-piece sets now. You could never do that before. Right? Because you've got 9 pieces now to get your bonus from. So you could run a Savage, say, piece of, you know, set. You can run a Savage set, that's 4 pieces. And then you get 2 additional pieces there. So let's say you put Stone Skin in those 2 additional pieces. If you can get 2 Stone Skin accessories, well, now you get a 4-set bonus out of Stone Skin, and you get a 4-set bonus out of your Savage. And that all of a sudden becomes like a way to potentially unlock a little bit of extra arena value that can help get you into Gold Arena. Because that you had to either have Savage or Stone Skin before. You couldn't have both. You know, so I think that would provide value to a mid-game player, a lot of value potentially. But like, not an OP amount of value, but I mean just like from a standpoint of like satisfaction in the game and then versatility in your kit, you know, in your roster. And we don't have access to that because at best, maybe you get the second chest and you get it every second or third week, you know. And it's only a once a week thing. It's not like this is Clan Boss where you get it every day.
Sure.
So I've won 2 chests and I literally don't have, like, I don't have pieces that match up. I can't put the 2-piece bonus on anybody. And none of the artifacts rolled particularly well. Like they didn't get stats that I needed. So I've got like flat attack amulets and stuff. So it's, you know, I'm going to get 2 pieces. I'll get 4 pieces a month for the next year. And then finally at some point I'll be like, hey, I've got a stone skin thing I can do. And it's like, that just doesn't feel that good. You know, it should be a little bit better than that. Or, you know, or they should also put them in the regular chests. Like if you get the top chest of each difficulty, you should get access to those accessories. Like it shouldn't only be in Hydra Clash. And it's funny.
Yeah, Hellstar said, great to see someone leveling champs without actual chickens, but just leveling champs. That's all I do. It's my favorite part of the game.
Yeah, Sun is he's a grinder. He is a grinder.
Fatal asked me why Lightning Cage Blessing on Wukong. That's a good question. The amount of thought that went into that decision was somewhat minimal, but I did like the fact that it still gave me crit damage and other additional damage and attack. That was about it.
I mean, when you think about it, when it comes to blessings, first of all, you get a free change once in the character's life. So the first blessing that you choose isn't critically important, right? And when you're early in an account, the blessing you choose early on may not be the blessing that you keep forever on certain champions because you may repurpose them as your roster fleshes out. So yeah. I would say there are probably there are at least 5 blessings or 6 blessings that I think Wukong can run effectively. And the ones you would start like with, the ones you would think of first are the ones that bring crit damage or bring accuracy, because those are the 2 like stats that he needs for his different roles. Crit damage for nuking, accuracy for buff stripping. And so if you like one and you think one's going to provide you value and you like the ability and you like the stats, then go in that direction. And then you experiment with them and see, you know, if that in fact was a good choice. And if not, you can always do more research and experimentation and then pick a different mastery and change it for free. I'm sorry, not mastery, blessing. And you can change it for free one time.
Yeah.
I don't think that means you just don't care. I don't think that you want to throw away if you can get it right the first time, great. You know, but if not, it's not the worst thing in the world. And, you know, there are people who like Lightning Cage on Wukong, and so why not?
I'll be honest, and maybe I should have seen this coming, but I didn't realize that you only get 1 free refresh on the blessings. So I was just kind of like, oh, cool, I could do a blessing now. I'm just going to kind of look at him, pick one quickly. And I didn't pay too much mind to it until I realized after when I went to, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll change it and try something else. It popped up saying I only have 1 more free refresh. I was like, oh, well, all right.
Yeah, that's the same for Masters.
I should have seen that coming because they charge for everything else under the sun. I should have known.
If they don't give your clan free insignia refreshes, they're not going to give you free blessing refreshes. You know, it's
but like it seems like such a small, simple thing. Like,
yeah, it is. You don't get free mastery refreshes either. You can refresh one time for free.
Yeah. And
then after that, it costs gems. I don't remember how many gems it is. It's not insignificant. It's like 250 or something. Which when you think about the fact that you buy your masteries for 800 gems, a refresh for 250 or whatever it is, it might be less. It might be 150. It's still like, doesn't feel good. Never feels good.
No.
And, you know, if you were to calculate the amount of revenue that those things generate for Plarium, if you were like, okay, if you took away free mastery, I mean, if you took away the mastery refresh cost and you just made it free mastery refreshes, and you made it free blessing refreshes, and you made it free clan insignia refreshes, and all of those refreshes, all of them, everywhere in the game, you just made completely free. Think of two things. One is, how much money would they actually lose? Like, how much literal revenue goes into those things? So you could like calculate the gems that people spend collectively on those things and then assume that all of them are, you know, or some portion of them are bought, portion of them are earned. But it doesn't matter if they're bought or earned because it has a dollar value attached to it. Figure out all that money. My guess is it's like 0.1% of all the revenue that Raid makes. Like, people buy books and shards and stuff like that. Like, that's where they spend their money. They don't spend their money on mastery refreshes, right? Like, that's not where people spend their money. But it's probably a tiny, tiny percentage. But now calculate the goodwill that it would generate, right? Like, just calculate how satisfying it would be to players to have unlimited free mastery refreshes, unlimited free blessing changes. Like, you would be able to experiment so much more with your champions. To be like, I'm going to build them this way. Then I'm going to build them this way. Then I'm going to do this other thing. I'm going to try this really weird build that somebody like, but we can't do those things. And we can't do those things because we have to pay for those things if we want to do them. But if you just like unlocked that, if you just said, hey, masteries are completely at any point changeable for any reason, right? It would make people like more excited about their champions. It would make them more excited about their account. It would create additional content for content creators. Like, I wouldn't have to have access to the test server to test out different Wukong builds, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would just be able to like redo his masteries over and over again, redo his blessings over and over again, and find what, you know, what worked, what I liked, and then tell everybody about it. And they could say, oh, well, I like that one, and I like that one, and I like that one. And maybe you have one build for, you know, Iron Twins, and one build for Clan Boss, and one build for Arena, and one build for Dungeon. You're like, all right, great. That would be awesome. You know, and I think, you know, the fear is, well, if they had one champion who was that flexible, then they wouldn't need other champions. And they spend money on champions. You know, so it's like this whole weird domino like psychology where they're like, well, we lose the money from the changes, like when they have to swap. But also, because the swaps cost money, it means they're going to swap champions or swap champion builds less frequently. And therefore, they're going to prioritize new champions more. And then that means they'll spend money on shards. It's like, guess what? We're going to spend money on shards anyway.
That was a long trail to follow there.
But it makes sense, yeah. Right? Like, this is Plarium's mentality.
I could see, yeah, I could definitely see it.
They gate everything, and they gate everything 2 or 3 or 4 times. The amount of gating in front of the Arbiter is it's insane. I've never seen another game gate in this manner. Because it's like, the first thing we're going to do is you're going to have to do 300 missions. Okay, so that's one. You just have to accomplish 300 tasks, and those tasks all have their own difficulties. That's a lot. That's a lot of gating already for Arbiter. But then they gate based on dungeon level clears. They gate based on arena like fights, and they gate
tokens.
Right, and then they gate based on the Great Hall, which is also from the arena. So if you just go to the Great Hall, you have to be in Gold Arena to unlock the highest tiers of Great Hall. You have to be, because it's color specific. If you're not in Gold, you can't do it. You can't just grind it in Silver indefinitely, right? So imagine if somebody was in Silver and they could just unlock all of the stuff with Silver tokens. It would just take a long time. Why? Because you get more tokens the higher up you go. So gold tokens are worth twice as many tokens as silver tokens. So by being at gold 5 and getting 4 gold tokens, right? And being in silver 4 and getting 3 tokens, like, you're getting almost 3 times the value by being in gold. So that's another gating system. Yep. Like, just the number of tokens you have to accumulate, or medals that you have to accumulate. So why why create the color barrier? Why even do that? Why make silver medals not enough? Why force people to get into gold? Because that means that dedicated players who play for 2 years but never get into gold can literally never get their arbiter. So that's a whole other gating. Do you know what I mean? And then it's like, so you're gating based on what they have to do, how long they have to do it, where they have to do it. Like, it's all of these additional gating systems. And like, if you just took all of that away, you took all of those extra gating systems away and say, let's say one color of metal and anybody could grind it at any level, you just needed enough, it would still be gated. It would be gated by the number of metals that are required, right? But it would be predictable and it would be accessible to everybody if they wanted to just spend enough time and resources in the arena. But then they're like, oh, by the way, that's not enough. Like, that's not enough. The 300 missions, the arena triple gate, and the Great Hall triple gate is not enough. We're also going to require you to get, you know, every dungeon to level 20. So now it's gated by your roster size and the champions that you pull, which is random. Right? And it's going to be gated by the amount of, you know, damage you can do to the clan boss. And it's going to be gated by, you know, all of these. It's like, I get that each mission should have its own value and should be a challenge in and of itself. And I don't mind that. And I don't mind the grindy ones. Like the ones where it's like kill 100 enemies in arena. I'm like, okay, that's annoying, but I get it. Like, that's just a grindy option. You know, but when they say, like, unlock a tier 7 or tier 10 affinity bonus in the Great Hall, that's not just grindy, right? It's very grindy. It's extremely grindy. It's also literally a cutoff for 50% of the player base. What they say when they do that is like 50% of you will never get the arbiter because you can't get to gold. And by the way, gold has a cap on how many players can be in gold. There's like a literal number of how many players can be in gold at any one time. You know, so that would be the other thing. If it's just like, oh, if it was just an accumulation of points, like you could get to that point total and then get into gold without a win percentage like match or whatever. Like it didn't matter who you were going up against. Then you could just get the gold tokens. But it's like, why are you doing all of these things? You know, and it's because of that long-term mentality. Like every single calculation, they're like, well, this affects this, affects this, affects this. And they don't want players to be so happy that they don't spend money on shards or books. They want everybody to be slightly dissatisfied at all times so that the solution is to
slightly dissatisfied at all times.
At all times in every area. They want you to be satisfied just frequently enough to think that you could get over the hump, right? Like, oh, if I got this champion, I could get into Gold Arena. And then you get that champion, and you get into Gold Arena, and you're like, great, life is good for a minute. And then you realize you're like, oh, I'm in Gold Arena now. But, you know, I still need to clear all the dungeons to stage 20. It's like, oh, well, I need champions for that. So let me open up my wallet, buy more shards, get some other champions. Oh, great. Now I got a great Spider Boss champion. Awesome. But I still need to get, you know, Fire Knight there. Well, I gotta open up my wallet to buy, you know, more shards for a Fire Knight champion. And like, they never want you fully satisfied. Because if you're just sitting there going, oh, wow, this is a fun game. I've got a great roster of champions. I can really do all of the things that I want to do. And the content is hard. And so it's worthwhile just because the content is hard, but it's not overwhelming. You know, I don't need another champion. I just need to grind. I need to be, I need to think about it. It's like, and, you know, find solutions. They don't want that. They want you to be like, nope, I'm going to buy another champion. Thank you. Here's my credit card. $1,500 for a mythic. $1,500 for a mythic. I'm going to buy 2 of those. Here's $3,000. You know? So, yeah. No free masteries, no free blessings. You don't get to redo it. You get to do it once. Because we don't want to be total assholes. Because if we didn't even give it to you once, people would just be like, nah, I'm not playing this game. But yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of interesting because to me, figuring that stuff out without paying for any of it, that's part of the fun.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see, oh, I need to clear Dragon 25 and see how much money do I need to spend to get there. So,
Just do
what
it.
can I do with what I have
Yeah.
and try to make it work? Do I need to bring in, like I did a lot of that in an early game. Like, do I need to bring like an uncommon up to 50 just to run this? And then, like, sure, that's the one use, and now it's food. Now I don't have to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that there is value in your roster, right? In building your roster, even if you already have a solution, right? Because it's like,
Oh yeah, for sure. More champs is great, but
right. But it's like, I'm clearing Dragon 19 right now. The team that is clearing Dragon 19 can clear Dragon 20 and 21 and 22, all the way up to 25. I know that that's going to take me forever because I need much better gear on these champions. I need to build my Great Hall to get some free stats on these champions. Like, I need this team, if this is going to be the team to do it, I need this team to be in the absolute utmost form. Or there's another champion out there I could pull that I could swap out for one of the, less effective members of this team and could just get me there instantly, And that's valuable at all times. Like, I'm glad that I have a solution for Dragon. I'd be happy to get a better one. And as long as I'm interested in farming here, like, getting a better one will always be a goal. When you're doing Spider in 4 minutes, you want to do it in 2 minutes. When you're doing it in 2 minutes, you want to do it in 30 seconds. When you're doing it in 30 seconds, you want to do it in 10. And anybody who's committed to the game long term, like, will either keep pushing, right? Or just keep collecting because they like collecting. So you're not really what's the term? De-incentivizing. You're not really, reducing the incentive to collect champions if you just let people experiment. Like, what you're doing is you're increasing the desire to experiment, and the more champions you have, the more experimentation you can enjoy. Right? The more solutions, the more cool solutions that you can enjoy. One of the cool things about Islan, and they release champions like this, but one of the cool things about Islan is that he is, in fact, a solution to like 5 or 6 different things for mid-game players. So if you get Strategos Islan, you're like, well, I'm going to build this guy out. He's going to help me everywhere. So they keep releasing champions like that. So if you're going to release champions like that, like, why not open up the masteries? Like that. If you don't want players to have multiple solutions in a single champion, don't create champions that are super versatile, right? Like, don't do it. Or just accept the fact that versatility is an appealing play, like, mechanic. Like, or whatever you would call it, characteristic in a champion. Like, I love Vizix. We talked about Vizix for 20 minutes. Like, she doesn't make me want to play the game less. She doesn't make me want to collect other champions less. She makes me want to find more compositions that are cool to put her in, and that requires more new champions to match her with. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody said here in chat, who was it? Hellstar said, trying and swapping out costs silver, so outdated, almost no room for experimentation. And this is the big thing to me. Hellstar says, it's so outdated. And that's true. Like, most games give you free gear swaps. Do you remember, like, back in the day in MMOs, like, how hard it used to be to, like, retool your champions? Like, you would have to pay, you would have to pay crazy in-game resources to, like, redo your masteries or redo your skill trees or whatever it was that they had in those games, And it was like, sometimes it would be limited also by time. Like, you would only ever be able to do it once for a champion on the account. Like, you could do an initial build and then you would swap it once. Or there was a mechanic, like, in Lotro, where in order to change your skill trees, whatever they were, I forget what they were called in that game, you had to go to, like, a location in game, a physical location in the game, and then you had to pay gold to the trainer who would, like, remove your old skills, and then you could put the new skills in. And you could do that as much as you wanted, but each successive time would cost more gold. So the first time it would cost 1 gold, then it would cost 5, and then it was 25, and then it was 80, and then it was, and it's like, And it got to an amount where it's like, and that was permanent, by the way, that never reset. So it was like, if you were on the 15th reset, you had to go
kind of brutal.
get 150 million gold, you know, in order to change it one more time. And so it was like, it was really, you had to really, really want to change, and you had to really know what you were doing in order to change. And then as time went by, they were just like, oh yeah, that's a stupid gate that we don't need. It just frustrates players, and would increase player satisfaction to just be able to redo their skill trees whenever they wanted. And the reason that games started retroactively like changing it is because new games came into the market, into the genre, and started the game with that free mechanic. You know, they were like, yeah, we're not going to make you do, you know, like, remember Rift? Rift was just like,
yeah,
we don't even care if you do it in dungeons. Like, just do it on the fly. Just go ahead and re-gear for bosses if you want. Like, you know, and it was like, wow. And I think Rift, in fact, started where it was like you had to go to a location, but you didn't have to pay money. But then eventually they just let you do it as long as you weren't actively in combat. Like, as long as you weren't fighting a dude, you know, and you were like, with one skill, I'm a healer, and with the next skill, I'm an assassin. You know, like, you couldn't do that. But if the fight
in the original Rift, you could literally just like the classes would have a certain number of skills, but you could pick any single one of them. Anything you would want to, you could choose. So you didn't even have specific trees or anything. It was like build your own character, which ended up getting.
There were
removed,
trees,
but
there were paths. Like, you could go down a path, right? And you had to go linearly down the path. And so in order to get, like, the more points you invested, the further down the path you could go. But you could pick two classes trees. So you could be like, you know, you could be like a rogue and a tank or something, but you could be more tank or you could be more rogue, and you could like select which skills you wanted. But to access certain skills, you had to invest the skill points, like, because it was a linear progression. Or there were like multi-lines that you had to progress down linearly. But in that game, if you were not in combat, like if you went to a dungeon and you killed the first boss with one build, you could rebuild in the dungeon for the next boss. Right? So, and because like you could change classes, like you didn't even have to be in the same class. So it wasn't like you were just changing skill trees. You could literally go from being, you know, a rogue healer to being a cleric tank, like the next fight. And they completely opened that up. And then a bunch of other MMOs were like, oh, players like that. We'll start removing some of the gating. You know, we'll start removing some of our gating. And so it got a little bit friendlier in
some of it.
Yeah, it got friendlier in WoW, it got friendlier in Lotro, it got friendlier in, you know, all these other places. And it cost less to do those swaps, and they realized that gave increased enjoyment. And players were still going to roll up alts. Like, it didn't stop them from rolling up second champions or getting another account or whatever, you know, like it didn't stop people from doing any of the things that they were doing. And so then that became the standard. And that's the thing about Raid, which is so frustrating, which is that there are a ton of gacha games out there that are new and are more friendly. And Raid does not adopt their methods quickly. You know, so players now look at Raid and then they go and play another gacha, and they're like, this other gacha is so much more friendly. Now, maybe it doesn't have the cool visuals. Maybe it doesn't have the deep mechanics. Maybe it doesn't have the huge champion roster. So there's still advantages that Raid holds in the genre. Like, they are still top of the heap for a lot of things. But for player convenience and satisfaction and like the play, you know, the quality of life component of the play experience, they are lagging behind. And yeah, so it's outdated. It's definitely outdated.
I can see that.
Godazord says, was it faster before? I'm not sure what it was that you were talking about. Hellstar says, Watcher of Realms is awesome, to be honest. Yeah. Watcher of Realms is definitely popular right now. And I wonder if the rise of other gacha games will eventually change Plarium's outlook and their philosophy towards their own game. I hope it does. Because if they seriously invested in improving quality of life issues in the game and like just recognizing the player experience a little bit more, making it more central to their game design, I think this game is as good as exists in the genre otherwise. You know, I don't think they would be, they're not going to be pushed off the top of the heap because somebody else figures out how to do this better from a standpoint of like design, like game design. They're going to get pushed off the top of the heap because they fall behind in terms of player satisfaction, community building, and monetization.
Yeah.
You know, and that's unfortunate because we feel as players that like, this is our game. Do you know what I mean? We have ownership over this. We've invested all this time and energy into it. It feels like our game, but we don't have control, right? We don't have decision-making control. So when the company that has control doesn't feel like an ally to the player, you get in a situation where you're like, I don't know if I want to invest in this game because I will have that sense of ownership of it. Like I will have that personal attachment to my roster and to the achievements and to the community. And it could all be just, the rug could be pulled out from underneath our feet very quickly, and we have nothing to say about it. You know, and that's true. That's true in all games, but it doesn't feel as like dangerous in other games. You know, like a lot of times you have a publishing company. You're like, hey, this company's pretty cool. They seem to be doing a good job for us. Maybe they mess up, and then we tell them about it, and then they change the thing. You know, what was that game that we played together? Awaken Chaos Era.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a gacha game. And it was a good gacha game. I don't think it was on par with Raid in terms of like the quality of the champions. I mean, they only launched with like 60 champions or something. It wasn't enough.
I barely remember. Like I remember playing it. That's the first kind of this style of game that you tried to get me to play, and I don't even remember how long I made it.
Yeah, you played for less than a month. It was like 3 weeks.
Yeah, just that.
And I think, you know, they did some things right and they did some things wrong. But I remember very early on when we were playing, one of the things that we noticed that was really good about that development team was they were putting out patches every 2 to 3 days. Right now, obviously the game had just launched. We played it at launch. But like they would find an issue. The players would discover an issue with a champion or with a stage or whatever. And they had a philosophy. They were like, well, is this in keeping with what we want the player experience to be? And if it was, they wouldn't nerf it or buff it or patch it or whatever. They would just leave it alone and they'd say, no, that's what we want it to be. And then in other cases, players would discover like weird interactions or like, you know, in some cases there were like exploits and stuff like that. And they would patch the exploits right away. And then if some champion was really weak and wasn't really being valued and whatever, they would explore it and they would say, well, no, we're going to give buffs to these champions because we want every champion to be usable somewhere at some stage of progression, you know. And so they were listening constantly to the player base and they were responding instantaneously or very quickly to those player base complaints. You know, and anytime you've had that experience, it's been like, well, I trust that company to be good custodians of the game in the long term. Now, in the case of Awaken Chaos Era, I don't think the game was good enough. Like, it wasn't quite good enough. And so I don't know that the game's dead, but it wasn't good enough to hold you or me for the long term.
Yeah, I tried it. And
Executioner says there was another game, Summoner's War, that was way bigger than Raid and a gacha game, and Summoner's War even had esports tournament, been out almost 10 years, going strong and making better quality of life, and it's coming back strong. I played that. That was the first gacha game I played. We were talking about that last week. It was a very good game, very cool. Graphics are different, and they're more old-fashioned. They don't look as good as Raid does in some ways. But that's a long-running game. And they've added a lot of features to the game. And yeah, that was a fun game to play. I likewise I think Galaxy of Heroes is phenomenal. And what's the Marvel one? The Marvel one was pretty good. I played that for about 6 months. What was it called? It's not the Marvel Snap. It was the gacha game. I forget what that was.
No idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I can find it probably. There are several gotchas out there for Marvel. I can't see it right now, but it was the one that's closest to this. It was squad building and stuff like that. It was actually pretty cool. I mean, and they launched with hundreds of heroes. I think that's the big thing. If you're going to start a gacha game, you need to launch with a big roster of champions. All right, let's see how we're doing.
Yeah, you want to take over real quick? I'm gonna use the bathroom in a moment.
Okay. See if we
Take
got
a little break arena.
Let's see if we got any drops here. Speed and crit rate, 5-star weapon. That's nice. Keep that. How about the chest piece? Resistance, no speed. Accuracy and crit damage.
For these.
No, nothing there. Nothing there. Speed and crit rate, 4-star helmet. Now that's a good days piece. I'll actually hold on to that days piece. No, get rid of those boots. That's okay. Yeah. So here I ran 10 runs. I did get some speed drops. I actually got 5 drops, but only one of the drops had a speed subset. So, but at least that was a decent percentage drop rate there. Let's go run that. Let's roll up that piece. So here I got 2 speed rolls into this piece, and that is. So I'm not going to get my Runekeeper Dazzdirk faster. Oh no, it was 2 pieces with speed subsets, but only 1 5-star piece. All right, crit rate is okay. Got the double roll into crit rate, which could end up being a replacement potentially for this piece. So I'd be losing a lot of stats there, but one of the things is if I can get faster and maintain some of my other stats here. I mean, all of these shields don't have, yeah, so it would probably be this one. So this would get me an additional 13 speed, plus I could glyph, plus I can take these up to 16. They're not at 16 yet, so I'll get some stats there. I lose 350 defense. I'm losing some attack, but I'll get that attack mostly back when I level it up to 16. HP is about the same. A little bit more accuracy, which I need. I need more accuracy. Lose a little bit of crit damage, but I could potentially roll into crit damage on this. What I really need here for this is I need to replace these 4-star gauntlets, 4-star chest piece. Like those are the ones I need to replace. Let me actually look. I don't think I have anything. But I'm going to take a look because I haven't looked in a couple of days. So primary stats would be, let's go crit damage with crit rate substats. So these on Wukong, well, only 4% crit rate there. So that's not quite good. The cruel piece, that's not too bad. This one's got crit rate as well. No speed, though. I'd be losing speed. I've got this one. This has got a double roll into crit rate. This could be really good. But I did check this piece out just the other day. And this, so, sorry, there's the piece. The Swift Parry piece. This is my best Swift Parry piece by far. And I don't have enough around it to actually swap her into Swift Parry or anybody into Swift Parry. Besides, I don't think I would want to do that with Athel because I need the lifesteal on her. So realistically, I'm looking at lifesteal pieces here to swap. And there just isn't that much good for me in the lifesteal set right now. So filter, substats, crit rate. That's it. I don't have crit rate on any of these pieces. Not one of these pieces has crit rate as a substat. Yeah, not one piece. That's just silly. So potentially, if I don't get the speed gear in the dragon, I could get lifesteal gear, and that would be pretty good. So here's a quick question. I wanted to ask you guys earlier, and then I got distracted with all sorts of things. But I wanted to ask everybody, if you were in the situation like me, where you could potentially either go into dragons, like let's say 19, and farm this speed gear, or you could farm stage 10 for the Dragon Turn tournament with the Knights Revenant faction, right? And potentially get value out of that reward system. Which one would you do? Like, at this stage, right? I'm level 54. So if I go for the tournament, I'll show you the rewards for the tournament. So this is the Dragon Turn attack. Now, one of the things is that, you know, this tournament ends in a day and 18 hours, and potentially I could complete it in, say, less than that. And then I could spend the rest of the 3 times drop rate still farming dragon at a higher level. So that's one of the things I'm thinking about, is like, do I just do stage 10 for a while, get all of these extra rewards? None of these rewards jump out at me as like awesome, right? I'm basically doing it for the Halloween points. There's no epic tome, you know, there's no, I don't know, there's nothing really good here. You know, Soulstone's fine, gems are fine, whatever, but there's not a lot. It's not like a lot of material here, you know? So basically, if I could compete with the top few players and get, like, you know, some Relentless gear, that'd be one thing. And maybe I could do that. Maybe I could do that. But realistically, I'm not going to go higher than 2,800 points. And maybe I'll just stop at the 2,250. We can already see the top 2 guys are over 2,800 points, and there's still a day and a half left on them. So what would you do? Would you go into stage 10 and farm this and get your Wukong points, get the extra stuff, and then swap over to stage 19? Or would you just drop as much energy as humanly possible into stage 19 to try to get as much good speed gear and potentially maybe some lifesteal gear, you know, based on where I am? Because like I said, the bottleneck right now is gear for me. I need better gear. I need better lifesteal gear. I need better speed gear. You know, from the dragon, I'm trying to think of what other set would be beneficial to me from the dragon. And the only one that I can think of would be Stalwart. Yeah, that's the only one I think I'm likely to use in the long run, from these pieces. You know, so the drop fever is going to match. It looks like it's going to just about match the dragon tournament. But I could complete the dragon tournament maybe in a day. You know, it's going to take me 2,000 energy to do it, and then I can move on. So let's see what people are saying.
Move on to freedom.
Execution Shooter says, if Raid would have listened to the players and actually try it, would make a huge comeback. I think so too. I think the reason people leave this game isn't because the game isn't good. It's because player aim sucks. Ken Chan says, can you tell me from where are the 2,000 gems when you have upgrade your tavern and the mine? So are you asking where have I gotten my gems to upgrade the mine? Like that?
I think they're asking, how do you have 2,000 gems when you also have like your guardian ring unlocked and your mine unlocked?
Oh, I collect gems. So I don't spend gems that often. I don't spend them on energy that much. That's one of the reasons why Sun is like 3 account levels ahead of me, is I generally save my gems for a particular moment in time rather than just kind of spending them as I go. So I look for big opportunities, whether that's I need a ton of energy for a fusion, or I need, you know, ancient shards and I buy shard packs with gems so I can get more pulls during a champion chase or something, or a 2 times event. So, you know, from the account, I'm getting my 15 a day from the gem mine. I'm getting, you know, my daily, when you go through the quests, you know, you get your daily 10. There's usually a couple of others down here that you get, you know, and then obviously from tournaments, from events, you get rewards there. I'm always doing those. So I try to do as much in the game as possible. And then basically I'm stingy with my gems. I just don't spend them. I don't spend them on energy very often. You know, whether or not in the long run that's going to be beneficial is one of the things we're going to find out from this Noob versus Pro series, right? We know the benefit of spending gems on energy. Sun's got 2 more 6 stars than I do. His account level. What account level are you right now, Sun?
38% into 57.
Yeah, so he's 57, and he's further along 57 than I'm 54. So he's 3+ levels ahead of me in terms of account level. Now, so that's the benefit that he's getting. The benefit that I'm getting is a little bit harder to measure. But one of the things that we know happened is early on I was behind him in a lot of ways. Like I was behind. And part of that was due to champions and part of that was due to other things, but like I'm not going to outgrind him. I'm not going to do it. I'm playing 2 accounts. Right? So he's not playing 2 accounts right now. He's playing 1. So I can't double the amount of time I put in the game, and so I'm never going to outgrind him. Plus, like, we're pretty well matched in terms of like grinding commitment. We actually are both mega grinders. So it's not like I'm going to outgrind him based just on like my fortitude. I'm not going to do that. He's as much of a grinder as I am, so I can't catch him. So I would need to spend more time in the game somehow, and that's just not going to happen right now. So I'm looking for opportunities to spend my gems in places where my experience is going to tell me I could get more value out of the gems than where he's doing it. Because I could try to match him with the grind and I could spend gems there, and that would be fine. It's not a bad place to spend gems. I'm not saying it's a bad place to spend gems. I'm just saying based on my play style, it's not the best way for me to spend gems. So I'm stingy with them, I hold on to them, and I use them in other places. Will I be doing a vid for... I'm sorry, what's that?
I said, and I literally just used 40 for another... another energy pack.
And here's the other thing, and this is true about just us. Like, we talk every day. We're playing the game and conversing about the game multiple times a day, every day. So if Sun saw me charging, if he's like, hey, man, you've only got 1,000 gems. Where did your other 1,000 gems go? And I'd be like, oh, I just bought 20 packs of energy because I'm going to make a bunch of 6 stars. Like, in his mind, he'd be like, that son of a bitch is coming for me. And then he'd just spend his gems. He would do the same thing. He's like, there's no way he's catching me. And so it's like we're competitive that way. And so it's not even like going that way is got to be, got to be beneficial to me. I still have a few tricks up my sleeve. Like, there are things that I know that he doesn't yet know. But once I do them once I do them one time, he knows what they are. And then he's going to start incorporating that into his overall game plan. And so, he's made some decisions on his account that I think have been fine, but ultimately might not be the most optimal decisions long term. And will maybe let me keep pace with him for a while. But ultimately, this noob versus pro is going to come down to 2 things. It's going to come down to the luck of shard pulls, which that's part of it. And the second is the fact that he just refuses to lose. He just refuses to let me catch up. So the only way I'm going to keep pace for a while is, for the first 6 months, is to just be wily. But okay. So Don Kelly asks, will you be doing a vid for Ice Golem? I will absolutely do a vid for Ice Golem. I'm going to cover all of those turn meter or turn attack tournaments. The last one didn't do as well as the first 2.
What mistakes I've made?
I mean, you've made a few mistakes, but nothing major. But so have I.
Well,
I've made some mistakes.
Definitely more mistakes.
Yeah, and I just think like you've made some decisions that I wouldn't. And it's been interesting to see some of them play out because I've thought some of them wouldn't be as effective as they've been. Your focus on faction crypts was really intense for a few weeks, and you really have gotten to a place where now you can farm almost all of the faction crypts at a decently high level. And it felt like that was a little bit too much investment to me early on. Like, I used that faction crypt method for getting value out of food. And what you decided to do is you tweaked it to go from food into permanent value in the faction crypts. And it has borne fruit for you because you literally every day you just have a team ready to go. And you can occasionally push those teams higher, but you're just getting tons of forged materials. And those forged materials can turn into silver. They can turn into good gear pieces. Obviously, they turn into glyphs. And I think in the long run, your approach to faction crypts is actually going to be much better than I originally thought it was going to be. Like that investment's going to pay off in the long run. And so that's kind of opened my eyes to it. And I've looked at it again and I've been like, yeah, maybe I should put a little bit more focus into that. So that's been cool. But then sometimes you've made decisions based around, you know, champions or where you put your energy. Then it'd be like, I think you could potentially get value in other places. But your playstyle is different than mine. Like where you get enjoyment is different from where I get enjoyment. And the one thing that I always say for everybody is you should game the way you want to game. So, you know, how do you say it's a less optimal gameplay style when that player's getting just as much enjoyment out of the game as you are? You know, so
yeah.
In fact, I think you enjoy the game more than I do in some aspects. Like there are times where you're like really excited about something. Or I'm like, oh yeah, I've done that 1,000 times. So like it's cool to do the first 20 times, but you know, eventually you'll be less excited about it. But it's cool to see you get excited about it. And I enjoy, like, it reminds me that these things are in fact fun. I mean, one of the things that's happened to me in recent months is I think of all of this stuff as content now. I forget that I played this game for fun. And I think just a couple of nights ago, I was really burned out. And I said to you, it's like, I just want to go and lie down on the couch and play Raid on my phone for an hour. That's all I want to do. Like, I don't want it to be about content. I just want to play a good game and relax, you know, and not think about how does this champion turn into a video? How does this team composition turn into a video? How does, you know, like, and so that's what I did. I went and I played Raid. And I just lay down on the couch for a couple hours and I played Raid. And I was like, oh yeah, I still like this game. This game is still fun. But okay, so Ken Chan says, do Dragon 19. Hammerhawk says, Dragon 19, in my opinion. Space Cowboy says 19 or 20. It's just more important. Cross Country Ant said, I skipped the tournament. Farming speed gear is worth more. I think so too. 5 to 6 star gear. Yeah. Kevin C says, afternoon, everyone. Welcome, Kevin C. Hammerhawk says, I'm skipping all the Halloween events because I just don't have the roster for the faction-specific dungeon tournaments. Hammerhawk, if you've been watching my videos, you should know that you probably do have the roster, or you could get the roster for the faction-specific dungeon tournaments. That doesn't mean you should, but I don't think, as long as you're 3 weeks into this game, I don't think anybody can't get a team to at least farm like stage 3 of all of these dungeons. And that's enough to complete the faction-specific dungeon tournaments. It's not necessarily the best use of your resources. My videos weren't trying to convince anybody that that's what they should be doing. But they are trying to convince people that you can, wherever you are in the game, you can do all of these dungeons. You know, you can do them with 3-star champions. Maybe you can only get to stage 3, but that's enough. Sometimes that's enough. Hellstar says, stop being cheap and spend them gems. Yeah, I could get value out of them. Spend them all. Mr. Fudan asks, did you ever decide what the measurement of being the winner is? What's the endpoint or goal, and how is it measured? So we didn't. You know, we started this series without a clear exit strategy. And I think we're just enjoying the series. Yeah. Like we enjoy the streams. We like coming down here and chatting with you people. We like showing off the accounts. I enjoy the account. I enjoy the account quite a bit. I get excited about new champions on this account 10 times more than I get excited about champions on my main account. Like when I pulled Runekeeper Dazdirk on this account, that was one of the most exciting moments I'd had in Raid in like a year. Like, I think the only thing that came close in the last year was getting my Lydia because of the way I got my Lydia. I was like down to the last minute. I literally, like, the crypt closed while I was in it. And I was able to finally get that final stage completed, 3-starred, and I got my Lydia. And maybe in the last year, that was the most exciting moment that I've had on that account. And then everything else exciting happens on this account. What have your most exciting moments been, Son? In fact, I want to hear from chat too. What have your most exciting moments in Raid been recently? And let me know where, like, how many days are you into your account when you tell me? Like, if you're 400 days into your account, take the last 100 days. What's the most exciting moment been for you in the last 100 days? And tell me how many days you've been into your account, because I'm curious. Because people who are only like 50 days into their account, they might have one or two really clear most exciting moments, but there's a lot of little exciting moments. But when you're 400 days or 600 days or 900 days into your account, and you're like, in the last 100 days, has anything exciting really happened? It gets harder, and certain things are clearly more exciting than other things. Maybe you cleared Doom Tower hard for the first time. Maybe you got to Brutal Hydra, or maybe you put together your speed tune for your Ultra Nightmare and you completed a 1-key Ultra Nightmare or something like that. I don't know what it would take to be super exciting. Maybe you had to pull in a Crizia to get excitement out of the 900-day account. So tell me how many days you're in and what's been your most exciting moment in the last 100 days or fewer. So, Son, what do you think, like, on this account, do you have like a top 2 or 3 moments where you can think that's been super exciting? Because neither one of us has pulled a legendary
that's a really
yet.
interesting question.
Without pulling a legendary, which is usually a really exciting moment early in an account, what are the most exciting moments for you on this account?
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because it's funny in a way, and like in hindsight, like for example, pulling Fane. If I'd known how good Fane was, I would have been much more excited. But when I pulled her, I was just like, what is this? What is this rat that I'm looking at?
Yeah. That's the other thing. Like if you knew
there
about
were a lot
Fane,
of moments like that. Yeah, like I'm just like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. I think recently, I mean, figuring out the like little Wukong Apothecary cheese strat,
that was fun.
That was exciting.
That was fun,
just because you beat your head against something and then you figure out an interesting way to do it. And even though I think it took me like 30 minutes to beat that fight, plus manual. Once I got there, that was exciting. That was really cool.
Well, the first cheese that you did wasn't with Wukong, it was with Fane. And you got past that first Scarab boss using Fane and Apothecary. And we were in Discord while it was happening, and you were talking about it because you were like going through the fight, and it took you several tries. You had spent a while, like you'd spent several hours trying to beat that boss with other strategies. And then we kind of brainstormed the cheese strat together. And you're like, all right, I'm going to try this thing. And when you beat that,
Fane
you were
and
pumped.
Apothecary. Yeah, that was exciting.
Yeah.
But so that one was just, Apothecary keeps Fane alive, she does the damage, but once she dies, there's no options.
Right.
Whereas so that's when I decided, okay, well, what if I take Wukong, who when he dies just comes back?
Right.
He doesn't do as good damage. But and that's So I mean, that helped me do a whole bunch of that. It let me do a whole bunch of Nightmare campaign. I think that was probably one of the bigger ones so far.
All right, cool. I want to read some of the chat answers. There's some good answers here. Okay, there's some questions there I can answer a little bit later. But so Tulsi says, getting Cold Heart after 300 days today. Well, congratulations, getting Cold Heart after 300 days. That is a long wait for a really good champion. And you're probably in the perfect place after 300 days to utilize her. Like you probably have the gear and the resources just ready to run her up to 6 stars, get her into some Fire Knight teams, some Spider teams, and do some work for you. That's great. So that would be exciting. Pulling my Cold Heart for this account yesterday was a very exciting moment. Just having her is always exciting. So Bill says, recently most exciting was getting Cardiel, and I'm 4 years in. Getting a Void Legendary that is a top 10 Void Legendary, it doesn't matter which one it is. That is exciting. That is definitely exciting. When you're just pulling Void Charge, you don't expect anything. And then all of a sudden you get a Krisk, you get a Yumiko, you get a Cardiel, and you're like, holy cow, I'm 4 years in and there's still a champion that can improve my overall account. So that is very exciting. It's funny because when I got my Cardiel, I wasn't instantly excited because I didn't know anything about the game really at that point. I didn't know, he was new to the game. I had never seen him before. I pulled him and he looked cool. And I sat there for like 20 minutes talking to my friend on Discord. And I'm like, I think this champion might be good. he looks like he might be really good. And the guy's like, well, explain his kit. I'm like, well, he does this and this. And he's like, yeah, he sounds really good. I'm like, and it took me a while to figure out that he was good. So it's not like now where if I pulled, a champion like that, I would jump through the roof because I knew, oh my God, I got my Krisk, that. It was just like, oh, I got this. He's a golden angel kind of, he looks cool, but it wasn't as exciting. So it kind of mirrors your Fane experience where you're like, I got this rat chick. Is she any good? And I'm like, yeah. And then you're like, oh, now I'm excited about her. Great Dane says, getting 1 key Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss with the help of Colred. Yeah, we worked on that team and we got him really close to 1 key. And then Great Dane spent like the next 2 weeks just incrementally creeping his champions closer and closer to a 1 key Ultra Nightmare. So congrats on that, Great Dane. That is very exciting. The Fatal Virus says, day 52 at the moment. First clear Fire Knight 20 a week ago. That's nice at 52 days. That is exciting. First of all, Fire Knight 20 is always exciting. Fire Knight is a pain in the butt. It is a difficult dungeon. And getting to stage 20 takes work. Doing it at 52 days is impressive. But yeah, that's a big moment. That's a big moment for any account. Let's say Hellstar here says, quitting raid a year ago because I wanted Geo and never could pull him. Then came back last month and the first shot I opened coughed up a Geo. That would be a great welcome back to raid moment. That would be, absolutely. By the way, I am 2.5 years in and I still haven't pulled a Geo on my main account. So I feel the pain. I feel the pain. Let's see. All right. Andre says, today is day 197 for me. I think my favorite moment was pulling my first Lego from a shard, which was Cupidus. Pulling your first Lego is an exciting moment. And that's a moment we're both still waiting for on these accounts.
Yeah.
I am more excited for you to pull your first Lego than I am to pull my first Lego on this account. Because like I said, I've already been looking at this account in a weird way. I've been enjoying the fact that I have a lot of good rares and epics and I'm having fun building solutions with that. I also don't want my shard pulling progress to outpace yours. I don't want to get 3 legendaries when you only get 1. Like that wouldn't be fun for me because then it wouldn't be competitive. I don't mind being the underdog. Like if you get better champions than I get, I don't mind that because that's a challenge to me to be more creative in my problem solving. But the other reason I don't mind that is because this is your main account. And this is not my main account, and I'm going to give up this account sometime. But I want, for your sake, both for your fun in the gameplay and for your long-term, roster health, for you to get good champions. Yeah. So when you pull your first legendary, we're both going to lose it. We're going to, hopefully it's not a total crap legendary. You're going to get Pixneal as your first legendary and you're going to be like, I got a legendary. And I'm going to be like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's the worst legendary. I don't want that to be the moment. I want the first legendary to be somebody good, It doesn't have to be world breakingly good, but it has to be somebody good. So that is a fun moment when you pull your first legendary. All right, let's see. Who else do we have here? Oops.
What do you think? I'm over 4,000 points into my champion training.
Nice. Where did you start at the beginning of the stream?
0.
Really? You got 4,000 points just from farming campaign in the last 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
That's impressive. All right, so Jacob B says, pulled Stultus in those White Shard events 50 days in. Stultus is a great champion. I would be excited about that. And hitting on the Prism Quartz or whatever that they give you for free, that's a nice hit. Especially, if you spent money to buy some of those, that's fine. But if you're a free-to-play player and you hit on one of those events, that is just a juicy bonus. Do you know what I mean? It's just extra because you get so few of those pulls. So, Rocha? Did you see the video Blazin made contradicting your sets over stats video? Love your content. I've learned a lot. I saw that he made one. I don't know Blazin's content very well. I think I've only ever watched one of his videos. I'm not focused on people wanting to contradict my stuff. Like they're content creators. They have their own communities. They have their own approach to the game. And if they want to make content in reaction to my content, that's fine. I think that I feel good about the video. I mean, I made some small mistakes in the video. I make some small mistakes in every video. One of the mistakes that I made that I knew right away, that I actually knew before I made the video, and when I went back and watched the video, before anybody did a reaction or anything, I was like, oh, I missed there. There's a moment where I talk about substats, like the set bonuses as substat rolls. And so from perception, you get 40 accuracy and 5% speed. And I called that 9 substat rolls because a substat roll is typically 5. So 45 stats divided by 5 is 9. Now, before I made the video, I scripted out the video a little bit. And I like in my head, I reminded myself, I'm like, that's not true with accuracy, because accuracy actually gives you like roughly 10 stats. So it's actually only 4 rolls of accuracy and 1 roll of speed there in a perception set. So it's 5 substat rolls, not 9. And I thought I corrected it. And then when I watched the video, I realized I didn't correct myself. I made the same mistake I made initially. And so if you're doing a reaction video to that and you disagree with somebody, they're going to jump all over that. Now, I don't know if they did. I assume they did. I didn't watch any of the reaction videos. But I'm not here to tear myself down. I'm not here to like feel bad about the fact I made a mistake. I made a mistake. It happens in videos. I think it's a good video. I feel confident in my argument. I feel confident that my viewers will get some value out of it, even if it just makes them think a little bit harder about stats versus sets. I had plenty of commenters who said they disagreed with me. And they all did so in a nice, courteous way, or they're like, no, I just straight up disagree with you. I'm like, that's fine. That's great. But there are more arguments to be made. Like, there's a lot more I could bring to that particular argument. And I'm 100% convinced that the stance I take in that video is not only a fair one and a reasonable one, but a valuable one for the community to hear. But if people disagree with it, that's fine. So I'm not going to go out of my way to get into a fight over it. Okay, let's see. From the last 100 days, this is Andre says, I've just been trying to get my champs stronger. UDK is my main, so looking forward to the Undead Horse Ice Golem. There you go. If UDK is one of your most powerful champs, that'll be fun for you there. Oh no, thanks, says pulling Brogni and Wither back to back with my 2 Sacreds from campaign have to be the most exciting moment for me in about 50 days in. You've got Wither and Brogni. Yeah, that would be extremely exciting. Now, they're 2 support champions, but really good support champions that bring a ton of stuff. Wither is one of the best solo champions in the game. So if you ever wanted to like repurpose her from a support champion to a solo champion, she is amazing at that. Hammerhawk says completing the Newt fusion was super exciting as it was the first fusion I completed at 272 days in. Yeah, Newt would be a great first fusion to complete. Your first fusion, when you complete a fusion, that's super exciting. So congrats on that. And 272 days in, if you're now 272 days in, that would have been what, like 60 days ago, something like that. So about 200 days in, maybe you started that fusion somewhere around there. So that's a great time to do your first fusion. I think 6 to 8 months is a great moment to like go after your first fusion and succeed. I tried my first probably around 6 months and failed, and then went again at like 7 or 8 months and succeeded. I think it was 8 months and I succeeded at my first. So probably around 270, well, not 272 days. Maybe just a little bit earlier than that. Maybe 250 or 260 days. Shooter said, recently pulling Brazoor today before tuning Newt in a way that he fits in 4 of my speed tunes. That is really nice. Yeah, sometimes you get a great champion and you're like, I want to put this champion everywhere, but how do you speed tune him for all these different places? And then you figure out the solution and you're like, oh yeah, that is fun. But pulling Brazoor today would, yeah. Anytime you pull a Void Lego, especially a top 10 or 15 Void Lego, you know, whether that's the Cardiel that we heard about or the Brazoor, that's super exciting. Shooter says, optimizing teams builds tunes is where I get my enjoyment from in raid. That's one of mine too, but probably it sounds like it's a little bit more a focus for you than for me, because sometimes what I do is I'm actually what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do as much content with as few champions as possible. That's what I like to do. Like, can I build champions like you were talking about with that speed tune? Can you get 4 speed tunes out of the same champion? Can I use Helicath in every fight in the game? I think I can. Let me figure out how to do it. You know? Kevin Sykes says, I'm 270 days in and finally pulled Siffy. Boom. That's a winner. That is a huge, huge excitement spike. That gets your blood pumping. Cross Country says, getting Blood Maul on a 20 pack while everyone complains about not getting any at 68 days in. Yeah, okay. When the people that you know are not pulling shards and you land a shard pull, you know, sometimes you're like, yeah, I just made up ground on all of my friends and, you know, friendly rivals. So that can be exciting. Bill says, wait, when you pulled Cardiel, was he or were you new to the game? Because he is in the game for quite a while. I was new to the game and he was new to the game. So what happened is I played for about 3 months and left the game for like a year and then a little bit longer, maybe a year and a half. And then I came back. And when I came back, I had like 3 void shards or something. And Cardiel was brand new to the game. I think he was maybe a month old. And so it was a 2 times void shard event like the weekend after I came back. I pulled my 3 void shards. One of them was Cardiel. And I had no idea that I had just hit gold. Like, I mean, I knew I hit a legendary, but I struck it rich. I didn't realize exactly how good he was. So, yeah. You know, technically it was a year and a half or 2 years after I had started my account, but I was only in the game of like less than 4 months when I hit on Cardiel. Play the Bot says 300 days in. I'm sorry, son, what was that?
I said that's sick.
Yeah.
That's an awesome pull.
That's a crazy pull, right? The good news about that pull is despite the fact that I didn't know how good he was when I pulled him, I figured it out really quickly. It's like,
yeah,
you know, the second best champion on my account at that point was probably Shiramani, like the second best legendary. I had Drexthar, I had Razin, but like in terms of the value that I had gotten out of a champion, Shiramani was my carry. And Cardiel just unlocked all sorts of extra stuff. I still had some good epics. Like I had Seeker at that point. But like I didn't have Deacon Armstrong. I didn't have my Arbiter. Obviously I didn't have Scylla the Drakes. You know, or Vizix or any of the free champions. Actually, I don't think I might not have had Razin at the moment. I think I did. I got my Razin on my main pretty early. But I think it was around that time I got Razin. And I happened to pull Drexthar from a shard before he was free. He wasn't free at that point. Yeah, but that was great. Okay, Play the Bot says 300 days in. First Void Lego pulled Terrace 100 days ago. So that will probably be one of the most exciting moments for you for the life of your account was pulling Terrace. Like obviously one of the top champions in the game. Like Void Legendaries are always great pull. How is Chigura? Pulled him today. Congratulations, Saint. That is a very good champion. He's very cool. He's got some interesting mechanics with these counterattack thingies for the poisons. I don't have one, so I'm not an expert on him, but he is very good. Mr. Fudan says, my moment, I was experimenting with building a second tag team. I stumbled into 2 good builds, so I got a second and third tag team. Then I was able to consistently progress in tag team arena and not go down. That's very nice. Sometimes discovery is accidental. Like in this case, it was like purposefully accidental. Like you were trying to do one thing, and in fact, you lucked into 2 things, but it was something that you were trying to do. So that's great that you've figured out 3 great tag teams. That's awesome. Alroka says, my free-to-play 1-year account, still no shard Lego, but pull Geomancer on my Prism shard. The Fatal Virus says, the key point in your videos is very helpful, even if there are details that might be wrong. That is not important for a new player. I appreciate that. I try to be as accurate as possible. Sometimes I make mistakes because one, I don't know something. There's still things I'm still learning. No player is perfect. I'm still learning. I try to research my main points, make sure I have accurate information. That's a high priority for me. That is not something I take lightly. But one of the things I know about like public speaking is you make mistakes when you speak. It's a stressful situation. I'm trying to present something. I have a time limit. I don't have unlimited time to do this. There's a lot of information out there. There's just tons and tons of information. So to know every fact perfectly can be tricky. Sometimes I come up with an idea while I'm speaking about something I haven't actually researched because it just comes to me in the moment. And sometimes I make a mistake. You can also misspeak. You can think you're saying one thing and you're saying something else. I can't count how many times I've said the word crit damage when I meant crit rate. Sun says like, yeah, I do that in every video at some point. I say one champion's name when I mean a different champion. Happens all the time. Or I say rare instead of epic. Like it just happens while you're speaking. And to go back and redo an entire video for that and, take another 2 hours to record it or whatever is not possible. So I have to forgive myself for being imperfect. I have to let that information out publicly, let everybody see my mistake because the value in the video exceeds the embarrassment or the damage done by those kinds of mistakes. And so it doesn't mean that I don't always know it. A lot of times I do know it, but I have to just have a standard and say, perfection is useful as a location, right? It gives you a compass point. You move in that direction. I am moving towards perfection. And on my path there, hopefully I strike excellence. That's it. It's not you can't get there. It is too far away. It is impossible to reach perfection. But hopefully by using that as my compass point, I can provide something that's good enough. And hopefully very good. And so I appreciate that you get value out of the video. I thank you for the comment.
I was just thinking, and it's funny because that's part of me playing Raid is also me learning stuff. Because I edit the videos, and before I had zero idea what you were talking about, pretty much at all times. But now that I know more about the game, I can come to you and say, "Hey, I think we missed the spot here. I think we, didn't touch on something there." So that's having that there is helping as well.
Yeah, and sometimes we've put corrections right onto the screen because we knew they happened, right? But you don't always catch my errors because you don't necessarily know what the errors are.
I don't know everything yet. Yeah.
And it may not even be a matter of like a lack of information. It may just be a lack of information about my intent. You don't know what I'm trying to argue when it's happening, especially because like the presentation is linear. So you might not even realize it till 20 minutes later, like in the video, but that's an hour later in the edit and we've got a deadline and we need to get it out, so it's like we have sometimes gone back and put in little text corrections or whatever. But ultimately, there's a piece of advice that a lot of YouTubers give. And when you watch videos about like how to start a YouTube channel, almost all of them will say this one piece of advice, which is start making videos and putting them on YouTube. They don't have to be good. They're not going to be good. You're going to look back at them in a year and be embarrassed by them. But if you don't put videos out, you will never put videos out. That's the first step. That's the ultimate step you have to do. And that's hard for me because I'm a perfectionist. I just am. And so getting over that emotional hump and putting out those first videos and then going back and watching them was very hard. And I've gotten better at it. And, when we can make corrections, we do. But sometimes I just have to be like, that error is going to stay out there. It's going to be permanent. That video is going to be up for 5 years. And that mistake is going to be present in it for 5 years. And I can hope one of two things. One is that the error isn't egregious enough to actually hurt somebody's account, hurt their play style, or mess them up. That they'll find out that I was wrong. And they'll be like, oh, he made a mistake there. And maybe it'll be frustrating or disappointing for a moment, but they won't think all of a sudden that video was not valuable because there was a lot of good information in the video. So that's my one hope there. That's the first thing. And then I think the second thing is that I will cover those topics again, and I will get better in covering those topics every time. So my next videos hopefully will be better than the previous videos. I will remember those mistakes and eliminate them the next time around. Let's see. We got a lot of chat going. Jacob B says, quick question. Are double ally protect strats a viable thing for Nightmare, Ultra Nightmare clan boss? Yeah, you can. You can do them. It's typically not the most efficient way to get things done. Usually, if you're going for like an infinity team, you would go for buff extenders. Because then you're extending all the buffs, not just the ally protect. So you can do a double ally protect, but I think it would be tricky to pull off successfully for Ultra Nightmare. And it would probably require like a speed tune and a really the right composition and a high level of gear. So you might be better off moving away from that and just picking one of the ally protectors you think is better in the composition, and then trying to supplement that with maybe a buff extension. Kevin C says 270 days in and pulled Seer just now. Well, congratulations. You got two great champions today. You got Vizix at 270 days, and you got Seer, who is the wave clear extraordinaire of the epic rarity and basically of the game. She's one of the best wave clears in the entire game. I hope you have Kaimar or a reset champion then can get the maximum value out of her. But if not, you'll find ways to use her. She's really good. The Fatal Virus says, were you laughing at that? Was that a laugh?
No, I'm laughing at something completely unrelated to what you're talking about, but relevant to you.
To me?
But just go on.
Okay,
go on,
so there's something further down. All right. By the way, Colred and Sun, did you track your Void Ancient Pities? You've been tracking, right?
Yeah.
I have not. Not on. I generally don't track it that closely. I tried tracking for a while and it helped me a little bit, but one of the things that I found is I should track on my main account. But one of the things I found is if I really get curious, I'm like, I think I'm close. I can go back in my videos and look. I can figure out how many shards I pulled. Andre say, who's your favorite champ? Mine currently is Firegun Isbel. Who's your favorite champ, Sun?
Ooh. Favorite champ? It's got a bit of Monk.
Yeah, it's Wukong. I was wondering if you were going to say Fane or not.
It's a tie between the two. Just because I really like Fane, but Wukong, we share the name.
Yeah,
title. He's my first Lego.
It's funny because we played an ARAM. We played a couple of ARAMs in League of Legends last night, and you actually got Wukong, and you were so excited to play Wukong.
I was so happy.
So yeah, Sun enjoys playing Sun Wukong in a lot of games. My favorite
in every game.
My favorite champion on my main account is Cardiel. There's really no contest there. I have other champions I really enjoy. On this account, I don't know that I could even come up with a close second to Runekeeper Dazzler. Like, I'm trying to think if there's anybody who's even in the league of Runekeeper Dazzler in terms of my favorite champion on this account, and there isn't. I like my other champions. The other champions are fine. I really love Deacon Armstrong. He is like an important champion to me, like emotionally. I always look for him. I'm like, Deacon, I need your help. It's like he's such a great champion. I put him in so many places. But Runekeeper Dazzler, first of all, this is the first time I've ever gotten him really early in an account where I knew he was going to help me with progression. He's the perfect champion. He's helped me everywhere. I love the way he looks. Like, I don't generally love the dwarven characters in Raid, but I do like dwarves in like lore and fantasy fiction and stuff like that. And so to have a really cool dwarf character is great. And like, I like his animations. I like his entire kit. I like the fact that he's a void Lego. I like all the progression he unlocked for me. I like the way I pulled him when I called my shot. There, on this account, there's nothing even close to Runekeeper Dazzler.
See, there's a perfect example.
Of what?
You called him a void Lego.
I did, yeah. I did. He's a void epic. He feels like a Lego.
He's a Lego in all of our hearts.
Yeah. Yesterday, I think that's supposed to be Sify on my 26 days in account. Well, congrats. That is an early moment to get Sify. She is going to just supercharge your account. That increased speed, the increased turn meter is great. She's going to have your block debuffs buff up. She's got the revive. Congratulations, you won Raid Shadow Legends 26 days in. Fatal Virus says, I love Tag Team Arena, probably my favorite game mode. I actually enjoy it too. I think most people don't, but I do have fun getting in there and digging into the champions and like thinking of each 3-team opponent as this like complex puzzle where you have to solve each of the 3 pieces, but you also have to solve it collectively. That's fun for me, but I don't like how slow it is to farm. Like sometimes you just want to farm it. So the best thing you can do actually is put in an awful defense, drop down really low where everybody's got one-man defenses, farm it down there, and then like 48 hours before the reset, you put in a real defense and you start climbing from there. It makes it really tricky. It's kind of frustrating, but at least that way for 5 days out of 7, you can just farm, and then for 2 days out of 7, you can play it like you mean it.
Yeah.
Cool says, Cardiel was my first Lego from Shard pull almost after 6 months of gameplay. He's an account changer, plays in all my teams. Yes, he does, and he will. Colred videos are more informative than even HH and Ash. Well, I thank you. That's high praise. That's high praise. I do actually, I always try to shout this out, but I watch content creators, and I watch content creators for a long time, and I watched a lot of HH and Ash. So, you research in game, you research online, you research by watching videos. And so the information that I've gleaned over the years is not just from my personal experience, it's also from all of those content creators' videos. So yeah, I'm glad that you've put me in that company. That's a lofty praise there. Tuan Duck says 300 days in and finally beat Scarab on Doom Tower Hard 90 after 15-minute manual with Mithrala and Vergis. Feels fantastic. Congratulations. That is a good achievement. That's a big achievement there. When you start getting up into the upper levels of Doom Tower Hard, every achievement matters to you. Every single boss you clear, every 10 floors you get through, like sometimes just getting past one particular floor can feel like a huge achievement because you have to create solutions sometimes for individual floors that aren't even boss floors. So that can be really tricky. And manualing is one of the things that you're going to rely on as you get up into those upper levels. Bill says, yesterday I got 4 Lego books, 2 from Nightmare and 2 from Ultra Nightmare. I thought I opened a video instead of the game and was getting trolled. Never happened before. That's never happened to me. I've never gotten 4 Lego books before. I think the best I've ever done maybe is 2. I don't think I've even gotten 3 before. So I've definitely gotten... I had a day not that long ago. It was like maybe a month ago, where I got 2 Sacreds and 2 Voids on the same day from Clan Boss. That was a big day. I got 2 Sacred Shards and 2 Void Shards. And I thought that was awesome. But 4 Legos, I wish I could get a day like that. Kevin's taking off. I'm out, guys. Glad to catch my first live with you guys. Have a great day. Have a great day, Kevin. Thanks for hanging out. I'm glad you got to see the first live stream. Cross Country Ant says, your content is more realistic for most players. Very good information. I've learned a ton from smaller creators. Other CC's content is basically, this could be you if you were me. Well, I think that
was a good one.
I think my content is also that. I think this could be you if you were me. I'm just the more accessible, like, example. Right. So like some content creators like this could be you if you spent $40,000 on the game. And I'm like, this can be you if you don't have any money to spend on this game. And so more players look at me as like the realistic model. And that's good. That's what I want to be. I want to be the more realistic model. But I don't necessarily think those content creators are wrong in their presentation. A lot of cases, they actually have access to possibilities that I don't. And every free-to-play player will have access to possibilities that other free-to-play players won't, because we don't all pull the same roster. I could have 80 level 60 champions as a free-to-play player, and another free-to-play player that's the same number of days in could have 80, 60-star or level 60 champions, and maybe 10 of those could overlap because they were the free ones, like Arbiter and Scylla the Drakes and Visix. Do you know what I mean? Maybe High Katoon, whatever. It's like, but that free-to-play player could have 70 different champions built all the way than I do at the same, same progress, like the exact same progress. And so when I make a video, they might be like, oh yeah, I don't have any of your solutions. Like I'm a free to play player. I'm in 900 days. I look at your account, your videos don't help me at all. And so I want to watch HH, or I want to watch Ash, or I want to watch one of the other creators because they've spent so much money on their account and they have 90% of the champions in the game. So my focus a lot of times isn't on specific champions. I don't try to make too many videos about specific champions that are solutions for specific things. Every once in a while I do because I think it's important. What I try to focus on instead is concepts, right? These champions fill these roles. If you can fill these roles with champions that you have, you're going to get similar results. So you don't necessarily need this champion. This might be a substitution. This might be a substitution. This might be a substitution. Maybe you can come up with a substitution I haven't thought of. But it's solvable for players at our level. Or I'll focus on champions that I know people have, like Syl of the Drakes. The reason I talk about her so much, the reason I talk about Runekeeper, not Runekeeper, the reason I talk about Deacon Armstrong, the reason I talk about Arbiter, the reason I talk about Vizix, because I know everybody gets those champions, right? Now, Arbiters, maybe not everybody gets that champion, but so many people do. And everybody gets Vizix at 270 days. Everybody gets Syl of the Drakes at 180 days. It's a reason why I value High Katoon so highly, because everybody gets her at 30 days. So when I put her in a video, nobody's going to say, well, I don't have that champion. Like, and if they do, they're like, oh, look, I get that champion in 7 days. It's always available. Now, you can't solve every problem with those 3 champions, but I'm always trying to look for how many problems can I solve with those 3 champions, because those are 3 champions I know everybody has. Aze say, what's up, chat? Don't forget to like the stream. Thank you, Aze. Definitely don't forget to like the stream. Fortune DD says, finally pulled Terrace today. As a big spender, finally have him 280 days in. Well, congrats. I think that's important. I was just talking about, being a free-to-play player, and I focus on free-to-play life a lot. But one of the spending issues I focus on is value. You're a big spender. You are supporting this game financially, which means you are supporting all of the free-to-play players who play this game. So I appreciate that, and I think you should get value for that money. So I'm glad you got Terrace today. That's awesome. I hope you didn't have to spend too much money to get him. I hope he feels like a good value to you, and I hope you enjoy having that champion for a long time, because that's what that's about. Anybody who spends, regardless of where you spend, the objection I have with Plarium's financial model isn't that people can spend a lot of money in this game. It's that it entices you to spend money in an unhealthy way, potentially. And then the second thing is it doesn't give you value for your money. So I think if we can eliminate those 2 problems, then great. So if you're spending in a way that makes sense to you, and then you get value for that money, that's exactly the relationship that you should have with the game. You get something and Plarium gets something. All right? So congratulations on your Terrace. Don Kelly says, still trying to get my first Hydra chest. That is what Sun is doing, right? He's currently in pursuit of his first Hydra chest. Bill says, well, Plarium did a good job. I'm sorry, Son?
I said one of these days I'll get there.
Yeah, well, it was a good reminder that you only need like 1.7 million to get that first one. I'm actually closing in on that. I think I got about 1 million. I think I got over 1 million this week with 2 keys. Bill says, well, Plarium did a good job on giving us mostly very good login champs. There are also some food champs in there. Oddly enough, I think over time I've come to appreciate all of the login champions. They're all usable. I don't think the distribution of the login champions is right. I really don't like Dark Athel and Dark Elhain back to back. I think that's a waste. And it doesn't help new players who are at that stage. So I think Plarium could like rearrange champions a little bit. Like if you got Grush, where you get Dark Elhain or Dark Athel, if you just get Grush in that spot and move the other champion to where Grush is, that's a better progression, because now you get a nuker and then you get a support champion, rather than getting back-to-back nukers who are in the same faction and do the exact same thing, basically. I mean, there are mechanical differences between the two, and Dark Elhain is better than Dark Athel. but they basically fulfill the same role in your roster. So why give them to us back to back? Give us something that we haven't gotten yet. Give us a healer, you know. But yeah, I believe that the login champions are all decent, and some are extremely good. Jose says, every time I see people start new accounts, I feel like I want to do the same. Even my main account doesn't get physics yet. Yeah, I mean, you have to stay committed. It's fun to be in the beginning of the account, right? It is fun to be early in an account. But it's also fun to progress through an account. And that's one of the things I've been thinking about with this free to, you know, the Noob versus Pro account is, I think Mr. Fudan asked us earlier, what's the exit strategy here? How long do we go? How do we measure a winner? And I think realistically, you know, my first goal was to get to 100 days. That's what I wanted to do. So we are currently at 61 days. So we've still got a ways to go. We've still got at least a month and a half to go to get to that 100 days. So that was my first goal.
Yeah.
Other goals that I've kind of set for myself is I'd like to see if I could get Arbiter. I'd like to see if I could get to Gold 5. I'd like to see if I could do that before I leave this account behind. I'd like to get to Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss. I don't have to 1-key it, but I'd like to be able to 3-key Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss. You know, those are things that I would like to do on this account. And the truth of the matter is I'm attached to this account. I like this account. It's one of my most fun accounts that I've ever played. I think that's because I'm playing it with a friend. I'm playing it with Sun. So it's really cool to be in the same place as you are, because it's like a measuring stick. It's a way to like compare yourself. Like we kind of are competitive about it, but simultaneously we're rooting for each other. That's really fun. And it's made it one of the most fun experiences I've had in Raid. So I don't want to leave it behind too soon. That being said, it's a huge time sink. My main account has suffered. This account has suffered. One of the things that we've noticed is I've missed completing 2 daily rewards. Or daily rewards twice. And so in fact, I'm 2 days behind you in terms of like the login, not the login rewards, but the like monthly progression rewards, like getting your sacreds and all that stuff. I've actually somehow missed 2 days. Because there's a lot of stuff going on in my life, but also because I have these 2 accounts that I have to do. So I don't know how long this account will last. We'll see. It might last to Scylla the Drakes. It might last to Vizix. It might last till we decide to do another series and start again from scratch. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay. Final warning.
Final warning for?
Oh, you ever Discord muted, by the way?
I'm not looking at my Discord. I haven't looked at my Discord since the stream.
Oh God, you're gonna love it.
Something going on in Discord?
Just me. Just go look.
Oh boy. What channel?
I'm DMing you.
You're DMing me. Okay. Yeah, I've already been thinking about that. I appreciate it. I am planning on getting at least a 2-star Wukong Soul.
Show me on screen, but yeah, look, as you can see, everybody can see my gifts that I've been sending you.
Yeah.
Because you have somewhere to go, and I know that you wanted to end the stream at the appropriate time, so I've been trying to get your attention there for like 20 minutes. Not be rude.
I got to do that. I do have to. Okay.
I had a great time looking for those though.
All right, let me see.
They were telling the story.
So I'm just going back to my run here. So this time, 10 runs, no speed drop. So I got 5 last time. So now out of 20 drops, I've gotten 5, which is probably around the right drop rate for a 3 times. Flat HP, we're going to get rid of those. Crit damage with crit rate and accuracy in an accuracy set. That's not awful. Let's get rid of those. Days, I'm going to get rid of those. Speed, accuracy, and defense on lifesteal. That's unfortunate. because lifesteal without crit rate is not great. But I'll hold on to it for now. Defense percentage with defense and speed on a destroy set, also without crit rate, not great, but let's hold on to him for now. Stalwart defense percentage is good, and defense percentage with speed, HP, and defense is beautiful. Look at this piece. This is a perfect stalwart piece. I mean, the only thing that this could have additionally might be resistance or accuracy. Like, that's the only, if you roll into resistance or accuracy at the end of this, and maybe you don't need the accuracy, you know? So this is a very good stalwart piece. That's nice. That's the best piece I probably pulled today. All right, let's click some red dots. I think chat was right. I think I'm just going to stick with Dragon's Lair 19. I'm just going to run this until my energy is gone.
Yeah.
Because it's just that the gear is so valuable. And honestly, I think I can get this 2-star Wukong soul without this tournament. And I don't think I'm going to get the 3-star soul. I know I'm not going to get the 4-star soul at this point. So, and I'm not overly concerned with that. Like, I'll get a 2-star soul on him. He's not as key to my roster as he is to your roster. So I think the 4-star soul is going to be very valuable for your roster. But in the meantime, I think I'm just going to keep running 19. Maybe I'll push for 20. I could try that. This is a better affinity for me. But we could try 20 later in the day. All right, so yeah, I think that's it. It is 2:30. Let's see how far we're in. We are just over the 3-hour, 20-minute mark. So I've got somewhere to be today. I can't extend this indefinitely, as much fun as it is to hang out with the viewers and talk to everybody. I want to say thank you. Thank you for hanging out today. It's been great. If you haven't yet, consider joining our Discord community. We've got over 500 players there. We talk every day. We chat. You can get roster advice. You can post your roster there and ask about anything, whether it's a clan boss tune or an arena tune or anything like that. We also have some clans that they're currently full right now, but people are asking about clan spots. So we may, in the near future, build a third clan for our Cold Red Plays community and see, if you're interested in that, you can join us there as well. And then just a reminder, we will be live streaming Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. That is our Takeover Tuesdays. So if you are interested in a free takeover, you do need to be a member of our Discord community. You can sign up for that during the stream. We kind of do this wheel of takeover thing. We spin the wheel, see who gets the free takeover, and we try to do at least 3 a day on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Yeah. And then otherwise, we'll see you next Saturday, I guess. Same time, same accounts. And hopefully at that point, we'll have more 6 stars and we'll have progressed further and we'll update everybody there. So, Sun, do you want to say goodbye?
Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody.
My voice totally broke there. I was like, want to say goodbye? Do you want to say goodbye? But yeah, thanks so much for hanging out, everybody. It's been really fun. And don't forget to do all those things. What were those things? Like the stream, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord community. Have fun in raid with your new Void champions, whether those are rares, epics, or legendaries. And yeah, you're all winners in my book. So thanks so much. We will see you soon.
Have a good one.